Welcome to the kill zone.
I feel the silence chasing me. Shadows follow me everywhere I go. Danger's near, I can feel it.
Say my name, feel that flame. Welcome to the kill zone. Welcome to the kill zone.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Freaky Fast Broadcasting on your Monday night. Tonight, we give you the coverage of the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series. The Gen 6 cars certainly have been giving us quite a show. You missed a madhouse last week at Dover. Some of the favorites taken out early, and at the end of the day, it was Austin Meese getting the victory for himself and also taking the points lead. The current past points leader, Colin Clarkey, making the announcement. Kind of shocked everyone. The driver that's won every mile and a half, not here tonight. It should be a fun one overall, though, that we're excited to see under the lights at Charlotte, as we've got tonight's race, the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series, presented by DadBod.Studios on TikTok. Go out there and check out Justin Johnson on TikTok. Tonight's race is sponsored by Ken's Satellite and Portable Hauling LLC 600, which originally was scheduled for 600. With a little bit of scheduling, drivers inputs being made, we are dumbing it down. It is not the full-length Charlotte race here tonight. Instead, we're dropping 100 laps. It's going to be 300 laps here at Charlotte. which should be a little bit nicer for us up at the booth. Should be nicer for the drivers. Might take a little bit of strategy away, but it's still the game of survival. 300 laps is a lot of laps to put down, and we'll see how the drivers survive here tonight. We're excited again to give you the coverage. My name is Sam Dyer. With me as always on Monday nights is Zach Hall. Zach, I know you're feeling a lot better. Tonight should be a good one. It's under the lights, it's Charlotte, and the former points leader not here. That means it is wide open on who can try to steal the top spot here tonight.
I think that is a huge thing. But yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you, everybody else, for tuning in. It's a pleasure to be back here. I'm glad to be in a much better state. Unfortunately, I had to step away last week. Tried to make it through as much as we could, but we'll be here for the full 300. Don't worry, here tonight. So definitely going to be a fun night. I'm battling around the, I would say the home of NASCAR. Here in the backwoods of NASCAR country, you got the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Probably one of the tracks that most of us drivers on iRacing have some of the most laps we race at any track on any circuit, just due to really its popularity. It's a free track that when you join the service, you're automatically getting this racetrack. So it's definitely something that everyone who's worked their way through the oval rankings have experienced. So I think Charlotte Motor Speedway is going to be a really fun battle. And like you said, with Colin Clary not here tonight, he's been the dominant car, so to say, when it comes to these 1.5 mile racetracks. This is going to open that door wide open for somebody new to come in here and swing in and get that victory. And it could be quite the battle we got on our hands with 300 laps.
Speaking about new, got a few new drivers deciding to sign up over this past week. See how they are going to perform here tonight. The 25 of Joseph Augusta, as well as the number 2 of Austin Smith. Going to be some of the newcomers here this evening. Current fastest driver going to be Drew Blaze, which I think Blaze expected to be one of the favorites here tonight. We'll see how going to be also Chris Klein, in the 51. He's got some quick pace, as well as Jacob D. Booth, Alan Swan, and Mike Fahey. A couple of those drivers hoping to scrub away the memory of Dover last week, especially Mike Fahey and Alan Swan, who made their late contact that took Fahey's chances of victory and finishing a race away from the 45. But tonight, wide open, like we said. Who has a chance to steal the points? Let's take a look at the point standings entering tonight, because there is a wide open chance of a lot of drivers taking an opportunity. The main reason why, it's Austin Meese, top of the board currently, which is a 1 point advantage over Colin, who got early, wrecked out on lap 4 last week at Dover, lost a major amount of points and the ultimate points lead, but proving if you have a bad night, you could be in trouble of losing the points lead, and that puts the pressure on the 97, even with his second victory of the season last week.
Yeah, it really does. It just shows you got to be really consistent, and you got to be able to put those races together. I mean, we saw Colin was out in an immediate flash in the eye last week, not going to be here this week, so we'll see how far he continues to drop after tonight's race. But I think someone like a Drew Blaze, you can take advantage of tonight. We saw him have some great runs so far this season. Had the win there at Richmond, and here tonight, after Chicagoland, we saw he had really good long run pace. We're just going to, I think, interesting to see how fast he can take off. Then you got the others like Justin Johnson, who was having a great run at Chicagoland. There was definitely a few guys I feel like that the 1.5 mile showed up to be a lot better than them than Dover did. So I'm interested to see how this is all going to start to shake out as, like I said, one of the more familiar tracks here tonight for everybody.
Another driver who's been actually running really well recently, that's going to be Eric Dillingham, making the announcement here just in the last couple of 10 minutes, saying he will not be showing up. So a lot of drivers that we thought were going to show up here tonight, maybe make some big gains in the points, not going to be the case for themselves. But we're going to take a look at the schedule. Tonight is one of what was supposed to be a full-length race, but next week, it's a special one. It's the only road course on the schedule, heading to Watkins Glen for race number 9. Then we head to the Tricky Triangle of Pocono, Kansas, Texas, Homestead, Bristol, Nashville, and Daytona. A lot of tracks that drivers are familiar with, really going with those traditional courses. Should be fun for the rest of this schedule, and due to the fact of a lot of drivers missing out here tonight, it makes the rest of the season a lot more entertaining on who can steal the points championship, because just proved after last week, it is still wide open. But Zach, when you look at this schedule, I know next week's the fun one to watch out, but are there any other tracks besides Watkins Glen that you're kind of excited to see how this field can race for the rest of the season?
I'm very interested for Bristol. I think, We've had the short track of Dover and Richmond so far for us. So it's been great races. But I'm interested to see how these guys are going to attack Bristol, because that is always a tricky one when it comes to the mile-and-a-half racing or half-mile racing. So very, very interesting. But halfway through here after tonight, we've got half the schedule left. These drivers are going to need that next part of their season to really come together if they want to be in that contention coming down to the very end.
As warm-up is slowly coming to a conclusion, again, thank you to DadBod over on TikTok. That's Justin Johnson's. That's going to be Justin Johnson's TikTok channel, where a lot of drivers actually have figured out and found out about the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing series. It's cool to see all these drivers coming out here. Looking at who are some of the drivers to watch out for, Zach. I know that we've got the favorite gone. I think Colin was the odds-on favorite. He's won every mile-and-a-half that we've been to so far this season. But when you look at the rest of the field, who's your driver that you feel like we should watch out and is your favorite driver to maybe win this race here tonight?
I think the guy who's shown a lot of speed and has just been caught up in a lot of unfortunate incidents, I'm going to go with the 45 tonight. I think Dover last week, unreal pace. When I left there, I was wondering what was going to happen with him. I tuned in and saw the unfortunate incident that ended up taking the 45 out of contention there. And I gotta say, I think he is a driver I think really to watch tonight. He's had speed at a lot of the places. He could break through here for his first one.
I think that's a great pick. He's shown this pace, shown the speed. I think there's a couple of good options out there, but the driver I'm going to go with, he's shown some pretty good pace, and I think this mile-and-a-half could be his chance to win. I'm going to go with the driver of, it's going to be Paul Blumershine in the 92. Currently 13th on the board, not showing the most speed currently in practice, but with the length of this race, I don't think it's going to come down to just raw pace. It's going to come down to strategy. It's going to come down to placing your vehicle in the right spot. And we've seen that in the last few races, that the 92 can be that driver. Now let's see if he can find his way into victory lane here this season. We also have a third member of our group running production in the background. That's Robert Moyer Jr., and he'll stick with the 24, Nicholas Francesco. I gotta say, Don Francesco is certainly a driver that last week shocked us with the pace. He was right there, had a chance, almost was able to make the pass for victory lane. Not the case. I think this is going to be an underdog pick. This driver said last week doesn't feel like he should be up front, usually a mid-packer, but I like the choice. Keep with the momentum. Keep with the driver who's been looking fast, and the 24 certainly is that. But when you talk about speed, you talk about the Lonestar series, the 88 of Drew Blaze. I think he's that driver that ultimately might be the heavy favorite of all coming into tonight.
Yeah, for sure. He's up at the top of that time sheet, but also looking at the 51 here, I think he's another one. Klein looked really good at Chicagoland, so he's had some very impressive moments there. So I'm interested to see how that will carry over here tonight for him. Looking at also 30 at Caden Watts. I think Watts will be definitely just looking for a better night from the past, nights. We've seen him caught up in a few incidents. I think the 30 is going to be looking for, get to the finish of this race and see where you're going to place yourself, because that is going to be really the critical thing here with the night being 300 laps. It's a lot longer than what a lot of these drivers are experienced to throughout the season, and you got to not do that a bunch of times. If you get in that wall too many times during this 300 laps, you're going to run into a lot of issues.
Another new driver going to be racing here tonight and joining with Augusta as well as Smith. That's going to be Kyler McCarthy. And looking at iRating, it's one of the ways you can rank yourself in a public way on iRacing, doing what they call official races. You're actually going to be one of the highest drivers entering in is the new 42. Zach, I think we might have a new contender to watch out for. Hasn't put any laps in for practice, just showed up within the past minute. But based off iRating, watch out for the 42 of Kyler McCarthy on where they might line up here this evening. As warm-ups closing up, there will be no qualifying. The grid is randomly set up. Where you line up, it's up to the fates of the iRacing gods, because we're about to get ready for 300 laps of Charlotte racing action. Should be a good one overall. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining with us here this evening. All drivers will have 5 sets of extra tires and pit road to work with throughout this evening. Their 6 sets is what they start out this race with. But let's take a look at our starting grid here this evening. 23 drivers are registered up to race, and taking the pole spot here tonight, going to be the 707 of David Collins. To his outside will be the 44 of Matthew Hobbs. Behind them in third, going to be Caden Watts with Russell Windsor in the 14 in fourth. Chris Klein going to be in the fifth position, the 51 with the 08 of Ken Couch in sixth. Drew Blaze going to be in seventh with Jordan Maddox in eighth position. And finishing out our top 10, watch out for Harold Crow and Jacob D. Booth in the 19. Finish out your top 10.
Last week's winner and points leader is Austin Bees, starting back here in the 11th position. Alongside him will be the 92 of Paul Boomershine. Robert's pick going to start back here in 13th of Nicholas Don Francesco. Alan Swan in the 85 is going to start in 14th with Joseph Augusta starting in 15th. 16th is going to go to James Dubose. 17th is going to go to the two car of Austin Smith. 18, my pick here tonight, the 45 of Mike Fahey is going to start back there along with the 19th position, the 42 car of Kyle McCarthy. Like Sam said, very high, one of the higher I ratings. We'll see how that works out for speed here tonight. 20th is going to be Kenneth Blackburn, and the final two cars on the field, Johnny Bobby Brown in 21st and Chris Lawness in 22nd. And we don't have Corbin Reich, but he's 23rd on the grid.
We'll see if Reich can get into the race now for Chris. Lannis, well, this is actually going to work out for him to be back here because he was one of the drivers who was given an EOL to start out here tonight. The other drivers will be sent to the back. Ken Couch and last week's winner, Austin Meese, going to be dealing with the winner's EOL. So watch out for the 97. Going to be a long night, sent to the back, and we've already seen last week early troubles for those that get sent to the back that are quick drivers. Got to be aware of your surroundings at times, and we'll see if the field can keep it clean and green here this evening. A long race. Zach, if they were doing the full 400 laps, we would say the same thing. This is a long race. It's going to be a mental, grueling evening. 300 laps, a little bit shorter, but that's still longer than most NASCAR traditional mile-and-a-half races. What do you think these drivers are thinking as they get prepared for this long evening ahead of us?
I think you really need to think about just staying on top of what the strategy is going to be, really. How far do I need to go? What do I need to stretch? And I think the biggest thing, the way you can do to kind of open up the strategy book for yourself is pretty much just stretch that fuel tank as far as it can possibly go. So I'm interested to see when we, go green here, if we can stay green for a full run, how far will someone go? Because the opportunities will be opened up, and then also the possibility of just timing where the cautions play out during this race. It can get very, very interesting when these longer races play out of this, because you got to really have your thoughts on not just the now but the future, because it can really sneak up on you and you'd be like, oh no, I'm on the complete wrong strategy, and your night's kind of off to a bad start off the get-go because you just didn't think the strategy off the get-go.
The last few weeks have really been good on the caution counts. Been pretty low last week, one of the lowest of the season at 2. Tonight, are we going to see the early aggression of drivers that know that they're fast, trying to get up front as soon as possible? Or will they take advantage of this being 300 laps and slowly make their way forward? As Couch will linger to the outside, the 08 letting the rest of the field drive on by as Couch has to go to the end of the line. Joining the 97 and the 3 machine, we can confirm that Corbin Reich has been able to get out there. So 23 drivers will be starting out this evening's race as they get ready to take off and go. Once again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining with us here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. You're watching the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series race here tonight. For going to be race number 8 for the GEN6 Satellite and Portable Hauling LLC 600, about to get underway this evening as the field stacks side by side. Still seeing a couple getting in line in the back, but up front, it's the 707 of David Collins, Matthew Hobbs. It's time for us to get ready for race number 8 here this evening into the restart zone. And here we go. We're green here at Charlotte as the 707 gets the launch. Everyone else on the inside row just is stuck in first gear as it's everyone on the outside taking off.
Everybody on the outside going, and the bottom lane just kind of stacked up there. As you see, you got the 51, the 88, the 30 all stacked in line as that bottom group just kind of did not get going like they wanted to. Is now down the back straightaway. They start to fan out and find their way around the cars that they need to.
We got Team Maddox out there in the chat. I want to say thank you for the super chat, $1.99, saying look at a great night tonight. All eyes on Maddox, Jordan Maddox, hoping for a good race here this evening. As you can see, the middle of the pack, it is a clog. Everyone trying to find a way to get around each other as Caden Watts drifting up, almost getting into the 51. And this is going to be the troublesome spot. How can you stay low, get close to that red and blue line, or are you going to run the outside, burn up some of those tires in the early going? As you're seeing everyone going high, low, where can you go? As the 37 of Jordan Maddox currently in 4th place. A good start for himself as the rest of the group behind him is trying to find that footing.
Definitely trying to find their footing. Everybody is right now. Is you've seen that 2 car up top there. I don't believe that is the Austin. No, sorry, it is Austin Smith there. So yeah, he was up there flirting with the disaster up against the wall there a few times, brushing it. So that 2 is got to watch out here early in the go in here. You get right up in that dirty air, right there, stuck up behind like the 33 of Harold Crow, and you lose that nose very quickly on the exit.
Yeah, I mean, that outside, everywhere on this track, especially if you're in the middle of the field, the dirty air going to be a factor that you're always watching out for. Lap 4 was the troublesome lap last week when we saw the early troubles for seeing that of Colin last week. And he's open, for a lot of this field. How can you be patient but also aggressive at the same time? And as we were seeing there with the 2, just everyone staying side by side. And looking at the lap times, you got half of the top 10 just going full bore, using up every little bit of their tires. The other half running almost a second slower than everyone else for that last lap. That was a wild difference of feel. You got some drivers trying to save their fuel and tires while others are on full bore go mode.
Very different agendas, so to say, here to start off, because like you said, I mean, if you really go all the way from 7th to 1st, it's really only about a second and a half separating those 7, but they're all kind of like, strung out in a line. As you Caden Watts back there in the background, he had a little bump off the wall. Watts is about another 2 seconds off of them, but then you have to go another second back to the second group of Nicholas De Francesco, and I'll tell you what, it's stacking up back there around that nice spot. You had Drew Blaze kind of almost going to the apron as he went to go to the inside. Now Mike Fahey going to go also in the 45 to the inside. You also got Chris Klein coming through. Definitely an interesting grouping right here of, really quick drivers, but just right now dropping back about 5 seconds already off the lead.
Yeah, and Drew Blaze, the driver we saw last week, start deep in the field, was patiently making his way forward, ultimately got up into the side of the top 5, and it's kind of where he stalled out for most of the evening, though he was caught up in some late contact. Well, this 88 certainly going to be a driver if you're trying to pace yourself and make sure that you're going to be up front at the end of the night. Not a bad driver to be hanging around, and that's exactly what we're seeing from Mike Fahey, as well as Klein and a few others. There's another, it's in the middle of the pack trying to make their way forward. Going to be last week's winner in the 97 of Austin. Currently 14th on the outside and now being trapped by Klein. I'm curious for the 97 machine where he wants to place himself. Does he want to continue on the outside row, or you find an opening and you just continue to take them moving forward, slicing your way through this pack?
Yeah, like, it's almost, it is making me think almost a lot of these guys are kind of playing a little bit of a fuel game here, like you said, because just the way we're seeing, like, even the pace, I mean, up front, it's still looking very strong from Windsor up there, who's right now running still a 30.6. This group back here is 0.8s, 0.9s. They've been really about anywhere from 3 to 4 tenths off every single lap. Now, it could be a tire even game with that. We could see it come back around, but this is an interesting start to this race with definitely a lot of different, I think, like I said earlier, agendas, because drivers are just going different speeds, and that usually tells you that a lot of different things are playing out in the minds.
Currently, the driver that's leading this race going to be Russell Windsor, which for the 14, this is a much better run for this driver, who we've seen be up inside of the top 10 at moments this season. The question is, can you finish the job? And Windsor getting this early start up front. It's nice when the gamble of where you'll be placed in the grid puts you up front as a fast driver. I think this is going to really help the 14, who's going to be getting at least the 1 bonus point for leading a lap. And this is a good start for the 14 as they continue on this charge.
It really is. And like you said, he got a great starting spot there. Really took advantage of it. We've seen him be strong at the mile and a half. So that's where he felt like his strength would be. When we talked to him previously at, Richmond, he got a podium, but he felt like when he went to Chicago, and that was going to be more in line with, his style. So you would think Charlotte fits right in with that. So Russell Windsor right now leading these open laps. Collins doing a good job to stay in second, but you see Matthew Hobbs, he's running a really high line, but he's starting to catch up a little bit here to the 707 and maybe put a little pressure, along with Jordan Maddox there in that fourth position in that 37 car.
Matthew Hobbs, a driver who's trying to get a redemption run here tonight after a really poor showing last week at Dover. But drivers further on the back, they are still, we're all in line from first back to seventh. They're taking it easy. But there was a little bit of a jostle of position back outside of the top 15. Some drivers getting over the radio, not happy with one another around the battling of 16th all the way back to 21st. And you could just even see this gaggle of cars. This is the battling between 8th all the way back to 14th. These drivers are so close to one another. One mistake and drivers getting rowdy over the radio.
Definitely, for sure. And I'm telling you, look, you see right here the 97, Austin Mees. He's trying to make the pass on Chris Klein. Now, this wasn't the group that necessarily we're talking about, but it's very similar situations. This group's about the same size as the grouping that's behind them. And, as you can see how tight the 97 is there, right in the dirty air. The 51 almost washes up into the 42. Great job by the 42 of McCarthy, kind of just holding his ground. Same good job for our points leader, the 97, of not washing up too far and taking that 42 out.
You have to stay mentally strong for all 300 laps. And yes, if you're driving with a very tight, ill-handling vehicle, maybe if you're the 97, who had to march his way from all the way back in 21st position up to now 13th. But even if you've torn up these tires, you got to be mentally focused, maybe be willing to give up a little bit here and there on that center speed to make sure you get a good exit off the corner. And we're seeing drivers already risking it a little bit more than maybe they should. Here, 15 laps in, we hop on board with Paul Boomershine as the 92 currently runs in 7th place. And I think for Boomershine, not really in a huge rush, because he can see the competition ahead of him. He's within a second and a half, and their competition ahead is getting into the wall. That's going to be Booth put into the outside wall as Booth and Alan Swan get a little bit mixy there through 3 and 4.
Definitely a little hip check there from the 85 to that 19, but didn't really get in the wall too hard. Gotta say a good job by them to not make that worse than what it was, but we'll see how Booth can reformulate here. He's actually got to run down the back straightaway as they're catching up that grouping ahead of them with Maddox right involved.
As Jordan Maddox catching up to the driver that was given the pole sitter award, the 707 of David Collins. And Collins currently in a spot where that 707 doesn't look as comfortable, as he's in a worrisome spot. We hop on board with Jacob D. Booth, and Booth is, we're still learning these drivers. This is our first season seeing a lot of these drivers out on track, but early predictions of watching, Booth is willing to be aggressive, and it sometimes maybe crosses over the line of hurting themselves with that aggressive driving. But here we go, the 19 trying to find an opportunity to get underneath David Collins, not able to do so, has to back off, looking for a better exit off the corner. Maybe we get to the quarter panel and we'll actually lose time, and now it's Boomershine. It's their time to go on the outer groove. The 92 is using up a little bit of tire to try to get by Jordan Maddox.
We talked about that third group, really 4, 5, 6 seconds almost back at one point. They're only 3.5 back now, and I can tell you, their lap times just look much more consistent. So not only maybe did they save some fuel, Sam, but they've also saved some tires from that 8th position on back, because they are all quicker than really anybody ahead by a considerable margin.
You just look at who are the drivers finishing inside of the top 10 as that lap machine. Scary moment for the 25 of Joseph Augusta. And Augusta better be careful, because that second pack is now catching up to the 25, trying to get down to the apron a little bit too soon. And every time's off the exit, trying to get out of the way. It touches the apron a little bit too egregiously. And the 25 extremely off the pace, almost 2.5, for some even 3 seconds off the pace. And that is not a good position to be, as the whole lead lap pack is catching up to you.
Oh, no, for sure is up front. It's like Swan trying to get the move done on Matthew Hobbs for that second spot, and he will go around the outside as Hobbs drops back to third. Paul Boomershine, though, from 4th, he really made those passes, and he's starting to make his climb up there also.
I think Boomershine might have seen that second pack closing in and realized, okay, I got to take off and go and start to run down Russell Windsor, who is running very similar lap times to that second pack. So Russell Windsor, got to give credit to the 14, has paced themselves very well on top of building the gap as much as it has been, but it is getting a little bit hectic back in that 5th place position. They're 2 wide, almost 3 wide, trying to find openings. The second pack has caught some of the slower drivers that were leading this race, and now they're trying to make some opportunities and moves. Austin Meese gets a little bit shoved to the outside. Now going to be seeing Klein slotting his way into that middle groove, and it is just a powerhouse of drivers trying to find a way to slice their way through this pack, find advantages for passes, on top of trying to not get involved with wrecks, as everyone is going up and down where you can go. Drew Blaze gets through, and he's the only one that's secure at this moment.
Wow, man, that was some great racing. Drew Blaze really made the great move there. Now Fahey going to look to the bottom here on to David Collins, our pole setter here. And then you'll see also Don Francesco. He's might going to think about making it 3 wide, but Fahey clears that 7-7. He's able to jump up high. Now the 24 going to try to attack the 45, but man, that second group did a really good job of managing these tires. That are on fire right now.
They certainly are, and just showing if you're too aggressive early on, you have lost your rubber and you're being passed at this moment as David Collins fades backwards on the outside groove. Fahey under pressure from Don Francesco, and the 24 also Klein on the outside, going back and forth as the 51 looking good, but in the outside wall's the 33. That's going to be Crow as he just gets put into the outside wall. The dirty air completely lost the front nose, and hard contact for Crow as he was trying to get a good exit off of turn 4. Not going to be the case as it loses a little bit of ground.
And it happens so fast. I mean, you literally have grip. The car's turning. You feel like you really don't have no issues. You get right in that wake of the driver ahead, and it just feels like the front tires come off the ground, and the nose goes from turning left to pretty much going straight right into the wall. So it is such a tough situation when you get in that wake of that car behind. But the aerodynamics is just a huge factor of racing that we see in every day-to-day life racing scenario now.
And over the radio, apologies were given out. That was Kyler McCarthy, who apologized for making slight contact to Crow. That made it even more egregious. That put the 33 into the outside wall. As McCarthy now tries to set up to get by the 24 up front for second. Boomershine has moved up into that second position, getting by Swan. And now going to be 1.3 seconds off of the leader. It's go time for Boomershine. He's running about a tenth faster than Windsor, but you've got Windsor in your sights. And I think that's the big positive for the 92. He knows where his competition is at this current moment. If he can catch our leader, maybe lead a couple of laps before this first pit stop of the evening, that is a huge win for Boomershine, but you got to be careful with the driver in 5th. Drew Blaze is running these guys down.
That he is. This is going to put Drew Blaze in an interesting scenario here to see if he can catch him before pit stops, because right now, about a tenth faster than our leader, kind of actually matching what Swan ran that last time. You know, a little bit of draft from Boomershine up ahead of him. It's kind of helped pull that group along. But yeah, Blaze is on the march forward, because at one point upwards of 5 seconds back, now exactly 2 back from the leader.
As watching here of Hobbs trying to keep it off that outside wall, the 44 trying their best to survive at this moment. You know, we talked about iRating and the official score. Hobbs, one of the drivers with the lowest of iRating scores, but that doesn't mean that you're missing out on speed. Sometimes that's just unlucky official racing. It is a tough war zone that officials can be. And this 44 trying to hold back. One of the best in the series at Drew Blaze. The 88 season opening goes for the pass. No real fight from Hobbs. Just trying to keep with this lead pack, realizing the scenario. My battle isn't at this moment the 88. I gotta stay close to Swan. Gotta stay close to maybe even Boomershine. Those are the drivers in question to hold on to. As you can see, that giant backstretch screen that allows people to see what the action is all around the track.
Definitely, for sure. Gotta love the giant screen there. It's been a classic feature of this racetrack for the whole time it's been in the modern era here, really. So it's cool to see always a feature here in iRacing. But Russell Windsor, man, what a job by him starting up front. Really has controlled this race well. Now his lead gap, though, is the concern for him, is down to 1 second. And we know this 550 high downforce package, you get a little bit of a draft that car up ahead. Yes, you're going to get that dirty air. It's going to definitely make the handling in the corners worse. But the amount of time you can gain in the straightaways from some of these drafting moments are very, very big. So we'll see once Boomershine gets a little bit closer, will he really start to pick up lap time, so to say? That's going to be a huge question. But I think the problem for Boomershine is he might have someone coming up to challenge him, because right now Drew Blaze on the look for third place with Alan Swan.
Drew Blaze backed off, was willing to give up the time early on to put the pressure late in this run. 31 laps in, and is up 3 spots from where he started, as Swan up 11 positions from where they started. But Boomershine, slow center point, going for the quick exit, really enabled the 88 for a pass here. Good job, Drew Blaze, to go for this pass to get by Swan. Behind them, a little bit of action as well, starting to heat up. But Blaze down to the apron. That is not a traditional way that you want to have an entry into the corner, but somehow makes it stick and completes the pass, even with that shallow entry.
Yeah, that's a dangerous game to flirt with. Here at Charlotte, you see the painted line on the racetrack. You want to put the left front as far as you can on that paint, but as soon as you go past that white part of the paint on the inside of the line, it flattens out pretty quickly here, and that can upset the race car pretty quickly. So definitely want to get to the paint, just not get past it.
As drivers making their opportunities, go for some passes. Matthew Hobbs has been caught by the second pack and is slowly going backwards, as seeing the 24 go for the position to the inside. Also going to be seeing the 42 thinking about following in suit, as Austin Meese, your points leader, now closing in on the top 5 as Hobbs trying to stay off the wall. Big scare, and he'll lose 3 positions in a blink of an eye, holding off all those drivers. Just showing this late in the run, 34 laps in. I mean, Zach, these tires, they fall apart quick, and they're releasing a lot of recovery spots that you're going to get throughout a run if you've already thrown all the grip away this early.
Yeah, I mean, we look at the leader, Russell Windsor, 30.1 for his fastest lap. He's run a 32.4 this last time by. I mean, that is a gigantic amount of fall off. You're looking, already upwards of 2 seconds past that. So it's really, you really see some interesting racing when that happens. I've always enjoyed when the lap times drop about 2 seconds off, especially at a track about this size. And then you got guys like Blaze, who he's only about 1.5 seconds off his fastest lap, because they backed it up at the beginning. You give up that little bit at the beginning of the run to get it back here at the end, and it's really cool to see this actually paying off for a lot of these drivers.
Yeah, seeing the 14 doing those throwback schemes for some drivers with the Gen 6. Seeing the 24 of Don Francesco bringing their throwbacks to the Jeff Gordon Raptor machine. You also have the 14, Tony Stewart, office days. I've seen some drivers with their own unique schemes. Here's the battling going on for 15th. That's going to be Johnny Bobby Brown, as well as the 21, Corbin Reich. You got to give credit to Reich on up 7 positions. It was part of the pack of drivers that were having their own issues getting into one another about 15 laps ago, really losing touch to that second pack, but still having their own battles back and forth. This is the 06 and the 21, as Johnny Bobby Brown getting a little bit close to the outside wall. I thought Reich was going to capitalize on the position, but instead just following suit as they pull away from the driver's 17th on back.
Yeah, this is what's wild. You look at Johnny Bobby Brown there in 15th. You could go all the way back almost to Kenneth Blackburn in 21st with this group. So this is a good-sized group still back here battling. You got the likes of Caden Watts there in the 30. He's leading them. You also got the pole setter, David Collins, who seems like his tires really falling off the cliff. I think his big thing is trying to get to the end of this run. James Dubose on the outside, also with Chris Lawness and Kenneth Blackburn. So this group right here is all still racing very, very hard, and they got a lot still left on the line.
Talking about a lot left on the line, a lot left in this stint. I mean, we're slowly catching up to that maybe magic number drivers are looking for. I know lap 50 is traditionally the number that drivers are aiming to hit their pit stops due to the fact they only have 5 more sets in pit road to work with for the rest of this race. But Zach, if you're a driver trying to maybe maximize a little bit more, push the tires out further to maybe think about cutting a pit stop away. What do you think there's a certain other number drivers are looking for during this pit stop, or do you feel like everyone's looking for lap number 50 around that time for their pit stop?
If you can get to 60, you do eliminate a pit stop throughout this whole race. So if you can go that extra 10 from 50, it would make a big difference. So I think that's going to be the critical thing to see. Can these drivers take it to that 50 mark? I know at Chicagoland we were sitting at about 59, I believe, laps for a fuel run. So I should be pretty close, I'd imagine, here also at Charlotte. And, you know, maybe that's the factor again, why those guys save that much tires, save that much fuel right at the beginning of the run to really help them out. Because I will say right now, Windsor's really kind of stabilized the gap to the drivers behind. And it seems like it's all evened out with our top, 12 really when it comes to lap times. And I think right now you're really just going to be focused on how much fuel can you get, because if you can only get the 50, again, you're going to have to make 5 stops in this race at least. If you can get to that 60 mark, you only have to make 4.
Yeah, looking at also the rest of the field, those that are inside of the top 10 currently, I want to give a lot of flowers to Alan Swan. Swan last week really had a lot of blemishes on how that evening went, with the 85 as well as the 45 getting into one another in those final 20 laps that kind of took Fahey's chances of winning at Dover away. But Swan right now running in 4th place, not a bad position at all. Is actually inside of the top 3 best drivers on gained positions from where they started this race off. Swan started this race in 14th up to 4th. That is a great start to tonight's race, showing that early aggression on the tires can work out, but trouble. It's the 44 of Matthew Hobbs going around on the back stretch, and our first caution is out, and it's before lap 50. Zach, the question marks. Can you or should you pit right now?
Yeah, I think that's going to be their huge question is, can you even do that? Because it's going to be such a commitment to waste a set of tires here. I mean, we'll have to see, but I think this is some contact between Jordan Maddox and the 37 and that 44 of Hobbs. So I think this is something we've seen with this car so far this season, is a lot of drivers having issues right off the exit of the corner, kind of getting loose late corner, coming down on the exit and clipping that left rear or that right rear of the driver and kind of spinning them up in the wall. I think we've seen that same incident about 3-4 times this season, and it seems to be a common factor with this car.
And you hate to see it for the fan favorite out there, for the 37 of Jordan Maddox getting into the 44 of Hobbs, but Hobbs goes around a heavy contact. 44 required damage, forced to pit road, and just coming down too far was the 37. Got to be able to continue racing on is Maddox, but the 44, their day could be done. Luckily, it's a long race, so if you sit in pit road, get all the required damage done. If you don't get the message of too much damage, we're done. Hobbs could try to gain a few more positions. We saw Colin Clary get at least 4 more positions after getting their damage repaired last week. And we'll see if maybe tonight might see a little bit of gained positions back for the 44. Everyone into pit road, though, you're seeing some tires being lifted up. That means they are using one of their sets right here, right now. And that's already going to put a big question mark of how do you want to run the rest of this race moving forward. Can you even cut down on a pit stop, or is everyone stuck in the same strategy moving forward? Everyone exiting out of pit road. Going to be Russell Windsor with the race off. And Zach, I think if you're the 14, that caution was the last thing you wanted to see, because now all your advantage is out the window.
Yeah, all that great scenario of starting farther up from the competition and kind of holding on, solidifying with it. It definitely hurt his situation. But I will say, if he wasn't able to make it to 60 because he was out front leading for the majority of that run and kind of not saving like we've seen some of these other guys clearly doing, he could have been an issue for making that other strategy work. So this could have kind of brought him back in too. So we really don't know how the scenario is played out yet, but I will say it's going to definitely be a situation that it gets tricky. I mean, right now, I think the biggest thing, you got the 6 sets of tires to start off with tonight, so they've already took a set off. Now this is going to be their second set, so that's going to only leave them with 4 sets there in pit road. And if you can go 52 laps, you can make this race a 4-stop to the end. So it would be perfect on the set of tires personally, but it'll definitely make things close, so to say, if we get some yellow flags in there where decisions about using tires are going to get very, very critical here soon.
The timer of this caution also enables a few drivers to get some extra damage repair done for their vehicles. One of those being Corbin Reich in the 21, able to get some extra damage done, as well as Ken Couch. Harold Crow, who saw slam the wall, able to get those repairs done, as well as Caden Watts had a few incidences into the wall and had some damage to get repaired. And Jordan Maddox still in pit road getting repairs done. Surprisingly, it only took one lap. Matthew Hobbs got the required damage fixed up and is back out on track, just one lap down. It was actually Jordan Maddox who didn't get the required damage flag that staying in pit road for extra time and might be going multiple laps down after that first incident of the day. Up front, going to be Russell Windsor, Drew Blaze as well. It's going to be seeing the 92 of Paul Boomershine, Nicholas Dan Francesco, as well as going to be seeing Alan Swan, Mike Fahey side by side. Road number 3 is an interesting one on this restart. We're expecting a much better takeoff and go after our first caution of the day is finished up. We're ready to get you back to racing action for the Ken. Going to be seeing the Ken's Hauling LLC 600 here this evening. Let's get racing action as we had our first caution and we're back to green just like that. Windsor Blaze, and we're underway.
Great start there from the bottom lane of Russell Windsor. He gets going, and it's going to be Drew Blaze. Like you said there in the second spot, he's going to drop down as you see the first couple rows all on single file, but it's going to be the 85 Alan Swan, the 51 of Chris Klein here, 6th and 7th. Battling, there's a little contact down the back straightaway as they keep it straight here, going down into 3.
Now it's going to be Klein and Swan making slight contact off the exit of turn number 2. They'll keep it together. Now it's going to be seen Kyler and Swan close off the exit of turn number 4. As the field knows, you got to get up front. You don't want to be working on these passes later on. With a lot of fast drivers able to already make these passes now, they can start to pace themselves with each other up front in the side of the top 10 instead of pacing themselves outside of the top 10 during that first stint. And for those drivers that were able to get the advantage of starting up front and maybe were early aggressive and really didn't have tires later on, now it's their chance to back off the pace, see what long run stability they can find for themselves as the 45 and the 24 stay side by side battling for 4th.
You can already tell by these first lap, we're not fully up the speed, so to say, yet, but just looking at lap time wise, I think everybody's going to be a little bit slower this run. I think they figured out that the fall off is a crazy immense amount, and now with it kind of spread it out and everybody got into the window of where they were running pace wise, I think it's going to help a lot of these drivers who maybe were struggling just with pushing a little hard as the contact from the 97 into the 24.
Contact all around, and last week's winner, our points leader, involved with this one. It's multiple drivers put it in the outside wall, and this is a bad one. Multiple drivers with required damage. Austin Mees, our points leader, required damage. The 06 of Johnny Bobby Brown going to be having to get damage repair. And just everyone squeezing up off the exit of the corner, and it's the 2 that were so close to one another last week. Don Francesco as well as Meese make contact to the newcomer. McCarthy gets a little bit of a piece of it as well.
Definitely, yeah, catches a little piece there, but you can see the little contact there. Catches the 42 head first to the wall. Same for the 24, 97. There's the 08 of Bobby Brown, or 06, and that, yeah, just tough hits all around from everybody. But yeah, this is just close racing. You can see the 97 just a little lower in the corner. That sometimes can make things a little bit tricky, especially late corner X like that. And you can see the contact there, and boom, trying to hang on, but nowhere to go with drivers kind of all coming through off the exit of 4.
Here's how the 06 got their damage. So we're going to ride on board, get a sense for the 24. There's nowhere to really go for themselves. Hard contact. A few drivers making some late runs through the wreck. There's the 25, as well as moments for some of the drivers also further in the back. That was Kenneth Blackburn who had that scare of trying to get through the wreck as everyone starts moving forward. But you might be wondering, why would some of these drivers maybe drive directly through the wreck instead of going maybe through the grass? It could be a safer option. There's an incident limit for these drivers. As well as you get too many incident points. If you get 4, that docks you 1 point in your point standing. So drivers try to minimize the amount of incident points they grab, as well as they don't want to max out at 20 incident points and get get disqualified from this race. And if you get 14 incident points, you get a drive-through penalty. So there's limits to how much you can hit the wall, hit other drivers, and go through the grass.
Wow, that can take a huge hurting on yourself, especially when we see how fast those points can change. So don't want to be stacking up those incidents. As you see there, it was the I believe the 44 Matthew Hobbs. He was going around to get his lap back, so that's going to put the 44 back on the lead lap in the 20th position, and that should help out his case here for getting back in contention for this race. But now, yeah, with everybody lined up, I think mostly if you came to pit road there, Sam, you were just getting damage repair done, because you do not want to come down and put another set on. Now there might have been a thought of fuel, but I think for the strategy, it really wouldn't have changed if you came down and put fuel in the car.
No, not at all. As we're here at Charlotte. Some drivers, they decided to go with throwback schemes, some sticking with their traditional ones. One driver changing it up due to the fact that whenever NASCAR comes to Charlotte, usually it is a patriotic schemes on top of it being just normal schemes for drivers. Then one of the drivers throwing out a special one. It's the 55 of James Dubose, who's going to be in 12th position. 55 running a special Navy scheme here this evening. You can see the rear end of the 55. So kind of special getting to see some drivers, bringing out their fun when they come to these certain tracks, and getting to see the Navy machine out there on courses. Our cameras on the virtual side are trying to give you the best angle possible.
Definitely a little bit of an interesting view there, but yeah, we're gonna get ready to go back green racing and see how this race all settles out, Sam. This is interesting to get these quick little yellows here right in the middle of this. I think didn't expect to see that yellow once we got stretched out like that. So I think this next yellow with them grouped up like kind of caught everybody off guard, and it's going to make this race only a little bit more interesting, so to say, with everybody stacked right back up.
Stacked up, but I think the thing that got me curious is not more drivers entering to maybe top off on fuel. I don't think anyone was expecting to use a set of tires, but topping off on fuel could have been an option. Only 2 drivers taking that opportunity. That's going to be in 15th position, the 21 of Corbin Reich, and as well Kenneth Blackburn, who I think Blackburn just also wanted to make sure they didn't have any damage after going through that wreck at the very end. First driver officially out of this race going to be Johnny Bobby Brown in the 06. They got the message, too much damage. And we'll see that 06 next week at Watkins Glen. Austin Meese as well, still in pit road for our points leader entering tonight. Most likely will not be our points leader exiting. But we'll see. That's all on Drew Blaze. If the 88 can win and maximize the points, that points for top position could be theirs. This green flag is back out in the air, and it's Windsor already going to be about a car length and a half ahead of Drew Blaze as they go into turn number 1. 14 looks good. It's the battle for third on back that's underway.
That it is, yeah, third on back, and you can see Fahey there in 4th, but it's Austin Smith who's trying to clear the 51 incline as he'll fall in line. Is right now single file pretty much throughout the whole entire field. Is now they'll go 2 by 2. Here's the 92 is going to look to the inside of Drew Blaze and try to take positioning here, but oh, look at that. Some driver into the outside wall, just scuffing it. I think it was the 707.
It was the 707 that's going to get close. I think also it might have been the 85 of Swan that really clobbered it. Swan is struggling to stay off of that outside wall, and we see there just yanking the wheel from the top to the bottom was Swan. Starting to see some other drivers emerging up front. The 2 of Austin Smith, who's making their debut race here tonight. Had a few drivers with their debut race making some movement forward at this current time in 3rd place. Good showing from some of the new drivers, and also seeing Boomer Shine Fahey 4th, 5th currently on screen. And they're just hoping to have a good run here tonight as Windsor still leading up front. And I'm curious for Blaze if he's just waiting for the long run to attack Windsor, or is the 14 truly our fastest driver on track that no one can get by?
It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I think Blaze, staying a little closer to this run, it's going to be interesting to see if he does have that same speed difference in the middle of the run, that kind of equates to a better situation because of, being closer, is actually now Blaze getting past off the Smith going around. So yeah, I think another situation where, again, the 88 very easy, going to be very easy on the tires, along with many of these other guys in this group, and they're going to give up maybe a few seconds here of lap time to Russell Windsor, but I think you'll see him claw it back. It's just going to be the question, do they fully get all the way back before it's all said and done?
A little bit of a graze of the wall, battling back for 6th position. Chris Klein getting by Austin Swan as the 51, the driver that was getting close. As the field all trying to find their pace, their footing to get ready for this long run. A bizarre quick 2 cautions that we had for ourselves, as I'm curious if we can bring up the weather for tonight's race. Maybe not a factor that we're expecting to change a lot here tonight as we're under the lights, but the air temperature is 76 degrees Fahrenheit, track temp 81. Winds really not gusting too aggressively, which I think that's a good sign for the field. You see it shift flying up to 6 miles per hour and more. But Zach, that track temp, I think that's a big thing that a lot of drivers are excited to see, that it's on the lower end, as Chris Lawn is very low on the apron again.
Definitely got very low on that apron for sure. Yeah, I think drivers are going to enjoy that track temp going down. The grip level going to continue to climb. The more this track cools off, the more the grip really starts to build in. And really, what, in my opinion, whatever balance you have, it just kind of insinuates it. So if you're tight, you're going to actually get a little bit tighter. If you're loose, you're going to get a little bit freer. So it kind of makes everything a little quicker and everything just a little all-around different. So it's very interesting to see how that changes throughout the night, but a lot of these drivers are going to have to manage these tires, because we've seen that last run. It was upwards of 2.5 seconds of fall off. We'll see if, what was the learning from that first run is really going to be the key. This league doesn't have a stage, so I think that caution came well-timed right before that first pit stop was about to happen, so a lot of drivers got to learn very badly. Got some battles heating up there with Caden Watson, the 30.
I mean, what we're learning right now is hard contact all around. Ken Couch slammed the wall. Booth hit the wall. We also saw there Swan slam the wall. It is a magnet that our camera is showing. This little pot of drivers from 6th on back were really struggling to find a way to exit the corner cleanly. And I thought Ken Couch was just a magnet himself that was just getting tapped by all these drivers until he slammed the wall over the last time we were around turn 4. And I mean, when you're hitting the wall as aggressively as we just saw, you gotta worry, 1, you might break and get some wheel damage, but 2, the constant hitting the wall throughout the night, that's just gonna hurt you overall. And if you get too many incident points, it's gonna make the later portion of this race where you're gonna have to tiptoe around this track instead of maybe going as fast as you possibly can go.
No doubt, Sam. Yeah, I think you're exactly spot on there with that assessment. Is we're right on board with this too, of Austin Smith, who right now starting to run Windsor back down. Right now, lap time about 0.3 quicker, and again, trying to stay in that drafting range and maybe utilize, stay right up alongside him. So great job by Austin Smith so far, up into a top 3 position already early in this race.
As the field up front, all still pretty single filed out. It might be a time for us to give you the rundown. If you're just joining us right now, in the early goings up front, leading the way in the 14 machine, this is Russell Windsor. Started 4th, got a great restart, got to the lead early, and has been leading almost most of the race so far. Maybe only has missed out on the 5 laps being led. Just having a great exit off this corner, but we fall back to 2nd place. Not to be the battle happening is the 2 of Austin Smith. Debut race for the 2 machine. Started all the way back in 17th. Currently our biggest mover of the race. Up 15 positions from where they started. Good start for the debut of Austin Smith and the 2. Behind them, driver who enters tonight 3rd in points. The driver in 2nd in points didn't show up here tonight, and the driver that is 1st in points just got caught up in the 2nd wreck of the day, and it might be officially out of this race. So this 88's looking for some big points this evening of Drew Blaze. Then in 4th, it's Mike Fahey, the 45, trying to finish out a race when they've got speed. Trouble is afoot at some point during this evening, and they're hoping to survive here tonight. Then in 5th, it is the 92 of Paul Boomershine. He's been lingering, he's been waiting, and hoping for a top 3 finish here tonight, and potentially a win is the goal. Then we fall back to 5th, and Zach, surprisingly, it's Jacob D. Booth pulling away from the chaos behind.
That he is. He's done a great job here to get away from that grouping behind him as we drop back to the 7th spot. You want to see the 707 here of David Collins. Started from pole position, drop back all the way to almost the back of the pack during that first run. We'll see if he's learned how to manage those tires a little bit better during this run. Now back in 8th behind him, about half a second, is to the 85 of Alan Swan. Very strong night for him. We've seen some contact at moments, seen some very good driving. Right now, looking to close in on that 707 up ahead. Then you drop back here to the 9th position. That's going to be the 51 of Chris Klein. And he's been very, very strong, pretty much throughout the night. He's up in that group of routers saving the tire, making their charge through. Caution came out, and right now, he's on that saving side of things. Once again, we'll see if it comes back around for that 51 crew. But then we drop the 10th here in the final spot in the top 10. That's going to be the 30 car, Caden Watson. What a night he's having so far. If he can come out here with the top 10, that would be a huge ordeal.
And that will be your top 10 runner. Seeing a little bit of motion of drivers going back and forth. It's Ken Couch over the radio. Not too excited with Sal. Some of the drivers racing around each other and just making the announcement of, hey, you guys do know it's 300 laps tonight. I think for most of the field, this would be the time that maybe you flip the switch. You start thinking about, all right, we're getting close to 150 laps into this race, and we're on lap 70. Most leagues, they run 150 to 120 laps. This is the time that you start to set up for the end of the race. We're still in the first third of this running. And some drivers are hoping to keep everyone's tempers low, everyone staying in a calm state here in the early going. But there are some drivers that are just struggling already here tonight. Already Johnny Bobby Brown out of this race. Austin Meese still has required damage and is dealing with that. Other drivers with required damage and in pit road is Joseph Augusta, who is in pit road getting damage repair, and also just now heading into pit roads, the 44 of Matthew Hobbs, who looked to have trouble off the exit of turn 4. He's had to lift the 44 machine to pit road to get service done. But Zach, here's that back half of the top 10. They're back to just keeping it chaotic as they've been doing for most of the night.
Yeah, they have. We also got that 42 of Kyle McCarthy there, up to 14th for the 42, and he was involved in that last wreck. And that's impressive to see that even with the right front damage, he's able to still claw back some of the time here he's lost. So we'll see if that 42 can continue to charge through. But this group here has been some of the closest racing right now that we have on this racetrack. So these drivers are all trying to manage their stuff, get to a number, and try to continue to complete laps, like you said, because we're not even a third of the way through this thing.
And for some drivers, we're still 30 laps away from potentially our second pit stop of the evening for most of the field. It's Ken Couch trying to search for an opening and find a chance to move back into the top 10 as the 08 has fallen outside of it. I was watching Chris Klein, who I think we were expecting a little bit more from the 51, finding his own patience as well as trying to stay out of the wall. Behind him, it's Harold Crow, which Crow, if you were listening to our broadcast last week, was having some major radio errors. It was just static coming out of his microphone. He has gotten that fixed up and able to communicate with the field around, which is going to be good whenever we're expecting green flag pit stops. We'll take that away. Caution is out. In trouble for it looks like Joseph Augusta, who just parks it. And left pit road, couldn't get to pit entry, and brings out a caution for the 25.
Yeah, very interesting here. Yeah, I was going back and watching it, and
he just
just kind of.
I don't know what's been going on.
Yeah,
I think his engine might have gone on the entry.
Yeah. The RPMs are gone, so I will say that the RPMs are gone as he's coming down there.
This was a separate incident during this run that happened that sent him to pit road. And he hits the wall again. And then he went into pit road, got these repairs fixed up. And then when he left pit road, he drove out and the engine left off the exit and then just decides to pull off to the apron. Instead of getting to pit road, just stops here and that's it. And that will be our third caution of the day, which the 25 was having a terrible debut race. And might be happy to get out of here from Charlotte. Might have a more enjoyable week next week at the Glen. as the rest of the field gets ready. Again, this is before the time that you really want to take tires. Is it fuel? When do you want to pit? And it looks like our leader will. Russell Windsor into pit road. Other drivers stay out. It's a split decision on the field.
That is very, very interesting. So, yeah, coming down here on lap 74, we'll see, does the tires go on? That, I think, is the huge question, because I just feel like it would be a huge loss of a set of tires here early in this going, and looks like tires are not going on. So it looks like fuel is mostly going in for most of these vehicles. I don't see too many people jacking up, Sam. I don't know if you've noticed anybody, but I did not see cars jacking up there.
I was just seeing fuel only for most. Didn't see anyone go up. I'm looking at times, though. One driver that might have taken tires, I'm going to take a couple looks at it, will be the 2 of Austin Smith. A 14-second pit time, and those tires did get up. So Austin Smith going to use their second set of tires here tonight. And before lap 100, that's not the number you really wanted to hit. But watch out for Smith. He might go full bore here and just blitz through this field.
He's going to have a big advantage. That's for sure when we go back green here. So that 2 car is going to be flying for sure. I just, again, concerned for the future of this race for him. I mean, looking at the scenario, really, you know, you'd only have 3 sets of tires now left in that pit road box. So that's going to be an interesting scenario to see if he can even make it. I'm going to have to do some quick math, but Sam, yeah, he's put himself in a box, so to say.
Yeah, not a fun box at all. I'm going to say this out loud. I'm curious to our producer if we have the crank it up. If we have that feature. I know that was a feature we used to have in the past. I don't know if we have that set up for us here this evening, but up front, Drew Blaze, going to be also Mike Fahey, going to be your top 2. And these drivers, for the first time here tonight, they will be the control vehicles of the field. Who will decide to pass them? Who will linger behind? Also going to be having Boomer Shine in third. That third row is, I think, where things get a little bit more interesting, because that's where we find David Collins, Alan Swan. Also going to be Caden Watts. Watts did not take off on that initial launch. We'll see if he's figured out the restarts to help out that outside row to take off and go. But this should be a good one. Zach, any final thoughts before we go to green flag racing?
Well, let's see how this all shakes out. We've had some takers on fuel only. Had 1 taker, it seems like, on tires. And then from there, a lot of people staying out. So this is definitely a mixed bag when it comes to strategy, Sam. And normally that can lead to some interesting scenarios. So get ready to crank your stuff up, because it's about to get wild.
It certainly should get wild. It's the 2 of Austin Smith. That is the driver of note. He's on the inside, bobbing and weaving and getting those tires warmed up. Everyone else in line. And let's have our first crank it up of the season. Pace car into pit road. And race number 8 here at Charlotte into the restart zone. And we are green. Enjoy a little bit of crank it up here on Freaky Fast. We are back, ladies and gentlemen, and you saw some of the chaos that was going down as David Collins, Alan Swan, heading back to the top 5 window, and drivers were going back and forth. High, low, where could you go to avoid some of the drivers getting close to the outside wall, and another driver is going the opposite direction. Heading forward, it's the 2 of Austin Smith. Fresh rubber has over a 30-lap advantage over the rest of the field ahead of him. This 2 is taking the chance, taking the gamble, and we'll see if they can get up front as quickly as possible. One driver, though, disappearing. That's Jacob D. Booth. To see if the 19 can get back out on track, but he is off the racing surface and has fallen to 18th place. As here we go, Zach. This is the 2 machines' chance, but an awkward position. Do you force 3 wide, or do you wait for the pass? It looks like he waited. And down into turn number 2, it's a pass time for the 2.
That is a great pass there for the 2 machine. And, you know, I was sitting here doing the math in my head, trying to figure out if he can make it on 3 more stops, because he's only got 3 sets of tires at pit road. If he can go 57 laps a run, he can make a 3-stop work. So if this was to go green, he is technically in the right strategy. He has put the tires on at the right time. But if a yellow flag comes out, he is in a predicament where he needs it to be right at the right number for it to work out for him fuel-wise.
And we'll pull up our race report. If you're just joining us, you are currently watching race number 8 of the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series. We've had 3 cautions here this evening. The first 2 were pretty quick, happening just around lap 40 to lap 50. Gave opportunities for drivers to take a set of tires then. Our most recent caution was 9 laps ago. And the pass for the lead, it's been a tough one, really. It was all going to be Russell Windsor, but after deciding to cut into pit road, top off on fuel, that 14 is back in ninth position. Now new leader, it's Drew Blaze with Mike Fahey in second. Third is going to be Paul Boomershine with our debut driver of Austin Smith in fourth for the 2 machine. And Alan Swan, it's been a tough one for the 85. He's been close to hitting other drivers, hitting the wall, but still in 5th place. You gotta give credit for the driver that has been having a tough start to this 300-lap race.
No doubt, yeah. I mean, flirting with disaster a few times, but and that somehow it works out and you get through it in racing. And right now, Swan's doing a great job of that as he's watching the brand new tires from that 2 machine try to drive himself up into contention here. We'll see how it works out. But right now, Drew Blaze, having the lead is liking the position he's in. Same for Mike Fahey in second, Paul Boomershine third. The 2 machine at some point, I feel like, has to be able to get around this grouping if he wants to really utilize those tires.
And there he goes to the inside, getting by Boomershine. Will B. Smith, and a quite easy pass. Boomershine really doesn't fight for that position, but still fighting for their spots. 5th place is the 85 of Alan Swan. He gotta try to pull away the best that he can, because behind him are a couple of blue machines fighting for 6th position. That's David Collin, excuse me, and also going to be seeing Chris in the 3 back and forth. And our old leader, it's Russell Windsor, trying to find a way to get through.
Yeah, Windsor lost a lot of track position with that pit road, and now kind of stuck mired back here in this group. And he's going to be questioning, saying, man, should I have pit here? Because, likes Drew Blaze, Mike Fahey stayed out there. They're up there leading the race. He's back here in 8th. It's right there to 707 of David Collins up into the wall. That's going to give the position up. Windsor up to 7th, so he'll enjoy that. Now we're going to have the sight set on the 3 of Chris Lawless's. Now Caden Watts in the 30 looks to the inside of our pole 7.
And Watts, who started on the front row, and when he started in row number 2, didn't have the best start to the race, as really missed all the gear shifts you could, but has rebounded up into 9th position. But behind them, another driver rebounding. That's going to be Kyler McCarthy in the 42, another debut driver that is making a good charge into the top 10. Outside of the top 10, you saw there on screen, it was a madhouse from that 11th position on back. And these are majority of the drivers that decided to top off on fuel, but didn't take tires. And Zach, they are all trying their best to save the tires, but they really lost touch to Smith as well, to Windsor, that are just pulling away and utilizing what they have right now.
No doubt, yeah. Using those tires, Forrest Smith is going to come back to be a very beneficial for Windsor, though. The thing I look for him is if he can stay within distance of Smith and they get back on an even set of tires, he's still in contention for this, because I look at the drivers that stayed out. If we were to stay green with where they pitted here, they would not be able to make it on a 3-stop compared to these drivers who pitted and got that fuel. So getting down pit road, getting the fuel that we've seen from this group and that we're watching right here has been very, very smart, because again, if you keep it green, they are actually sitting in a much better spot to make a one less pit strategy. And I tell you, one less pit than competition will be a huge advantage.
And watching some of the competition that is in front of us, Austin Meese in the middle of this, 21 laps down, but at least out on track, able to gain 2 positions with Johnny Bobby Brown out of this race, and also Joseph Augusta's blown the engine and move into 23rd. And 2 other positions that can gained by our points leader entering tonight of the 97 Austin Meese. That's Matthew Hobbs and Jacob D. Booth that are both out of this race. D. Booth officially has disconnected due to packet loss, but has shown no sign of trying to get back into this race, currently 10 laps down. Moving back up to that recovery conversation about Kyler McCarthy, this 42 was keeping pace with those that are in our top 5 currently, Ablaze, Fahey, Smith. I gotta say, if we didn't see McCarthy get caught up in that wreck between Don Francesco and Meese, he could have been right there fighting with our top 5 and maybe even for the battle for the lead at this moment.
He had some strong pace. I was watching his pace at the end of that longer run we had, and it wasn't the fastest car, but he was up there definitely competing with a top 5 pace car on the longer run. The concern that he has now is he's had that damage, but they have worked on it. They pulled the right front fender out more and more on each pit stop, and this time by, I've noticed it's looking a lot better. The splitter still's a little bit not in the greatest state, but I think the biggest thing for him is just get that car back, fix as much as possible on each pit stop, and then you never know. By the end of this 300 laps, he could have a good car again and very well be right in the mix of challenge for a possible win on debut.
Might have a chance, or it could be the other debut driver of Austin Smith, who is caught up to our top 2. Our top 3 are right on top of one another. Speaking of on top of each other, was that battling just outside of the top 10. But this 2 machine is moments away, if not this lap, the next lap, from taking the lead. And you got to think for Mike Fahey, he spent all this time saving the tires, an opportunity to maybe attempt to go for the pass on Blaze. And it might get snuffed out in an instant because Austin Smith is here. And with 30 lap pressure tires, this too will be able to make the pass. The question is, how aggressively or how patient will they attack this move or go for this move here in the next 5 laps?
That is very, very good point, Sam. And when he gets around him, how far can he get out there? That's the big thing that these guys need to focus ahead of him is, he might have the major advantage on tires, but we have seen the farther we get into this run around the 32-second bracket right now, which the lap times, that's pretty much what they're running. This is where we do start to see the evening out of the tires. So I'm starting to wonder if maybe that advantage will start to disappear more and more as the farther we get into this run.
Where do you want to place yourself? And it looks like for Smith, maybe not in a position where they feel like, hey, I need to go all out. Could just utilize our front 2 as the pace markers. If you're this 2 machine, you don't want to overcook these fresh tires. You could get caught later on in the run if you're just being too aggressive. So maybe for Smith, he's caught the drivers that he's circled up that he needs to get to, and now just sit and wait until you need to make this pass and really push forward and think about the fuel, think about the tires. The 2 is in no real urgency at this moment. As Mike Fahey, Blaze, now they're setting their sights. Where do you want to go? Fahey not showing any signs to go for the pass just yet. Kind of just sitting in the wake of the 88 as they sit and watch on where do you want to go. Drivers back in that 10th place position. They were battling quite aggressively. And it's the back and forth of Klein and Crow. And Zach talking about how we're learning these drivers, their tendencies, how they want to race around one another. I got to say, the 33 of Harold Crow on the more aggressive defensive lines of most drivers. It seems like he's got certain drivers he's willing to fight back and forth with, and right now doesn't want to lose 10th place decline. The 33 fights right on back.
Yeah, definitely fighting hard for this spot, and this is what this car can produce too, man. You get side by side, you hit that car with the left front fender on that right rear fender, you just pack the air not only into the fender well that's open, but also that the rear spoiler, and it just really makes it where it's hard to break the side draft, so to say. As long as that driver's driving in deep enough and able to carry enough speed, they're going to stay side by side perpetually for a while here. So yes, while this is, great racing, it can really hurt your lap times being side by side like this. So I'm sure Chris Klein doing everything in his power trying to clear, but I think the problem is he's going to run up on this 3 of Launis, who right now seems to be much slower than this grouping.
Well, Launis and Watts were trying to play a little bit of games of back and forth, and they both checked up so much then through 3 and 4. They've allowed Decline as well as Crow to catch up, and now it's 2 by 2. Who's got the better line? Who's got the better pusher? And it's the inside row. Launis and Klein push on and make the pass be made. And Crow, all that fighting and trying to hold back the 51 and get by him, throw it away. Now you're going to be stuck with Watts and also Misu's right on the back bumper and just finding an opening. It's a 33.
And you got to look at Mies there. He's 21 laps down in 20th place. So that is, he's on a completely, different set of tires than a lot of this grouping. And he's trying to at least get some laps back and get past Jacob D. Booth to get himself up a spot. So we'll see how that works out as we're going down into 3 and 4 here. And you can see right behind that 3, the 51, Klein trying to find his way to get a run around him. There's a big run here coming off of 4.
Big run. Do you go to the outside? Do you stay to the inside following suit? Going to be the outside run, side by side down into turn number 1, and fully clear will be the 51 of Klein. And Klein will hover in that middle groove. Not going to put any air blocking on 3 just yet, not until the exit out of the corner. And certainly wild to see some of these drivers and the way they're willing to press on for a couple of laps, then they'll fall back, then they'll attack again. The yo-yo factor of the back and forth. And here's a driver who's trying to yo-yo his way back forward. That's the 14 of Russell Windsor getting to boomer shine, and a very different type of a battle you see up front. Drivers having a little bit more give and take between one another when they're making passes.
Definitely the case here. I mean, these are the drivers, in my opinion, too, that want to see it go green. So I kind of see the aspect of keeping them to want to keep it in this situation. So we'll see how it works out. But Windsor's done a good job. He really has slowly, methodically worked his way back forward. And right now, he is 4 seconds getting off the lead. But in my opinion, like I said, other than Austin Smith, I don't see the top 2 being able to make the same strategy work that these other grouping that pit there on that latest caution. So we definitely have a scenario where this is going to be, I think, very much wide open for a lot of these drivers when it comes to what strategy you're going to play, actually.
What strategy is on the table? Well, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, it is going to be green flag pit stops expected for about half the field that did not pit. They've got another 8 to 10 more laps to go before pit stops are ahead of them. But for us, we will step away when we come back. More Charlotte racing action here for the Kens. Going to be also Portable Hauling LLC 600. We'll be back right after this for more racing action on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here tonight as we are currently watching the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series race number 8 at Charlotte. Pit stops underway, and our front two are heading to pit road as it will be Drew Blaze as well as Mike Fahey making their way in. And for a moment there, it looked a little bit quick for Blaze, but he gets it slowed down in time. Now I'm going to be giving the lead to the two machine of Austin Smith as well as Russell Windsor, who topped off on fuel 40 laps ago. And now they get rewarded now with getting the lead position. They're expected to pit in the next 20 laps, if not a little bit sooner than that. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Zach Hall. And Zach, with pit stops underway, this will finish out the pit stops as everyone else has made their stops with all the cautions. 72 laps, but it's a little bit far. Still a little bit too early to make the call of who's got the better strategy, but it certainly is a fun one to watch of those that are trying to cut down on a pit stop and those that are forced to pit road.
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to see exactly what these drivers right here would need to do to be on a 3-stop. So if they were able to go 62 laps on a tank of fuel here under a green condition, of course, we saw 72 right there, like Sam was saying, under those cautions added in there, fuel, things like that. Definitely help the situation for those drivers. But if they can go 62 under a full green run, they can be right on the edge and the money of the window. So I think it's going to make things like very, very interesting, so to say, if they can get that to that point, because that's where drivers like Austin Smith and Russell Windsor kind of lose out on, the strategy. Like I said, they gained from hitting pit road. So it was a really good job by them to get as far as they did on that fuel.
Currently, your leader, the two machine of Austin Smith, biggest mover currently is up 6 positions. The next, actually, the biggest mover right now is Corbin Wright, who started in last place in 23rd position and is up to 5th. But with all the gained positions and drivers pitting, it was Austin Smith for the longest time. Now with everyone making their pit stops, we wait for our top 7 to make their stops here in the next 15 laps or so. And Zach, when you look at some of the competition that's out of this race, you've got Jacob D. Booth with internet connections. He's out of this thing. Matthew Hobbs, debut race for Joseph Augusta, and the 06 of Johnny Bobby Brown. Their days are over, but you look at the rest of the field that's still out there on track. We got 19 drivers still out there. We still have over 180 laps to go here tonight. Where do you feel like the mental is when you've already ran 120 at this point?
Yeah, that's the thing. You got to really a lot of these races, especially sim racing wise, when you see the longer distance ones, everybody's like, "Oh, well, you think it's more of a physical thing?" It is. It can be physical. Sim racing is not something that is just a walk in the park. It's not like we're pressing a button with a controller. A lot of these guys are pressing the pedals that have a lot of stiffness to them. The wheels strong, very strong with the force feedback. But I've never really considered like these races really, races of a test of strength. I've always thought it was more of a test of mentality and your mental acuity, because it really, really gets to a point where you're hitting the same marks over and over every single lap on a track. An oval like this, it can get to a point where you're kind of just looping over and over again and not really thinking, and your brain starts to slide away and you actually start to lose focus of what you need to be doing. So it is very much, I think, more on the mental aspect. And with them only 120 laps so far into tonight's event, I mean, they've been out there racing for 1 hour and 13 minutes already, and we probably would say at least got another hour and a half, at least maybe even 2 hours of racing still to go. These drivers have got a lot still to think about, and it's definitely not over yet. We've seen so far this season, we've had it multiple times where a driver's been out front kind of dominating, and next thing you know, that driver's knocked out of the race, and then the next driver up is the one that's really the driver in the catbird seat.
Yeah, I saw it last week at Dover when Mike Fahey found himself getting caught up with contact of Alan Swan. Those two drivers currently running 8th and 9th, currently on track. Looking at the drivers that have already made their pit stops, it's being led by the 88 of Drew Blaze, who currently runs in 7th position at this moment in time. He's still 1 lap down, but it's always weird, when you look at the ticker board and most of the field's a lap down because of everyone being on one strategy compared to the other. And Those off-sequence pit stops can really give you an eye-opening experience of what could happen if a caution flag happens at this current moment. Really could throw it away, as you just saw there. Blaze unlapping himself. And how much time is Blaze gaining back now? Because if you're Austin Smith, you're stuck to this strategy. You have to stay out for another 5 to 6 more laps, but you're losing time where you might not be the leader when you finally make this pit stop.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Sam. Yeah, I think it's going to be a stark difference. When we come to pit road here, I think you're going to see a huge gap for the drivers who pit early, but will they be able to claw back the time is the question for the drivers, that come in here later, for the ones who have older fuel, and what will their strategy window be? I'm really interested to see what number they can get to. We've seen it's was 72 there for this first set of drivers. This will be our first true test of really like a green flag number to see even if it'll be possible for the likes of Drew Blaze to make this 3-stop work that we assume the 2 and the 14 and many others are going to be doing. As you see here, Fahey comes by. He's going to unlap himself also in the 45.
As well as that's going to be Blackburn, who's going to be going on by to be now 1 lap down instead of 2. As Fahey gets by that 155. Other close battles that are happening on track. The battle for second is being passed. The main reason why Windsor could not hit that number, Zach. He is into pit road for the 14. And that is a concerning spot. If you're Russell Windsor in your opportunities, you were once leading this race, you took the game to head into pit road, and you were not able to get to that number you were talking about, Zach, of trying to cut down on a pit stop. Instead, you've just lost a bunch of time to your competition.
Yeah, he has. And, I mean, he's coming down here at 53 on this run. The rest of the race, he's going to need to do 58s. So he's going to have to stretch it a little bit farther on these next few runs. So, I mean, if he's concerned about fuel, then then it's going to be interesting. But it is an interesting scenario where he pitted here. Maybe felt like even if he went another 5, 6 laps, it's not like he would have got into a different window of a possible different strategy. So I think that is probably the consideration there, because there's no way anybody's going to go upwards of 80 laps. We saw that so far. 72 laps was as far as we're probably going to see anybody go, just due to these caution laps really being involved.
More drivers heading into pit road, the 55. That's going to be James DeBose, as well as going to be seeing the 21 of Corbin Wright, going to be heading into pit road to get service done, as they're both next to one another. And it's kind of one of the next closest battles that are happening. But, another thing that you can get for Russell Windsor on the reason why you would want to pit sooner than you did, like I said, maybe you found that window where it was between these laps, I could pit at any moment. The sooner you pit, the less time you're losing to the competition that already made their pit stop. So trying to keep the gap close is Windsor, and on top of that, we'll have an advantage on tires and be able to pass some of the competition. As you see, the 2 of Austin Smith continuing to stay out on track, have an overall 11-second difference. The second place of Chris Klein, who Klein's been having his own battle. At one moment, he was battling the 42 of Kyler McCarthy. Once was battling lap cars. And now the 51 is just waiting for whenever their number lines up to head into pit road. As we are currently 131 laps in, talking about the mental of these races. Most mile and a halves this season, they only run 175 laps. We are certainly going surpassing that with tonight's race, with 300 in total. That's why we keep on talking about mental, trying to make sure that you're physically ready for this type of a race. And one of those points you brought up, Zach, force feedback. That's a factor that a lot of drivers have the ability to change. Some like to have a little bit of a lighter feeling steering wheel, while others like to have the most aggressive and hardest steering wheel to turn.
Yeah, trust me, I know some guys out there that I'm like, man, you're a psycho. Like, what are you doing with Will Sanders? I'm like, do you really want to just, rip your arms off? And, some people really like that aggressive feedback, and it can get to be too much. They call that clipping. When you get too much noise and too much feedback in there, and you really can't decipher what everything is. But all the wheels and all the systems have gotten so much better over time that, we're so lucky to be able to experience the force feedback that we did, because, man, I remember back in 2014 driving with a Microsoft Sidewinder going, man, this is amazing. And now driving with some of the direct drive wheels we got, it is amidst the forces and the feelings that you get from here on these simulators. So it is really cool to see. And like you said, you can turn that up and down. Some people, like you said, do like it a little bit lower. Some people like it a little higher. It's kind of preference based, all about that, and will definitely have an effect on a driver who's running 300 laps here at Charlotte tonight, I would say.
It certainly can. Other close battles that are happening. Fourth place is currently where the battle is happening. Drew Blaze, Mike Fahey, and a lot of traffic all around. At one moment, these drivers were passing Blaze and Mike Fahey, that being the 24 and the 30 machine. Now it's on the opposite foot, just 20 laps later, as Blaze on the outside trying to get by Nicholas. And the 24, Watts goes high, and forcing the lead lap drivers to split through the middle. And luckily for Fahey and Blaze, they make the pass look clean, and they're able to get through. But those are those moments where it's so hard without a live person in your ear telling you where to place yourself as a lap down driver. You're bound to be put in those awkward positions because you're not expecting somebody who's about a second faster than you to try to blitz right onto your rear end.
You're exactly right, Sam. Yeah, it can make things very, very tricky there. This group all stacked up one another as Fahey has caught up to Blaze, and now with the likes of Caden Watts there in the 30 on a little fresher tires. Same for Don Francesco, and Kenneth Blackburn right here with this grouping. But yeah, with Smith on pit road now actually coming in, this is entering 136 is going to be the number that comes down for the 2 machine. We'll see, when does Chris Klein elect to come down?
Chris Klein going to be the last driver of those that pitted 60 laps ago. Under our last caution, when will the 51 pit? It will not even be this lap. Klein continues to stay out. And this is impressive by the 51, but again, you got to think Klein was about 11 seconds off of Smith when Smith went into the pits. So it's a little concerning on how long this 51 is willing to stay out, but the amount of time that was lost to even achieve this. Sometimes the risk to reward factor just isn't worth it at the end of the day. But this 51, they've stuck to their guns. They're going to continue to stay out. Will it be another lap? It will. Another driver that attempted this type of a run, this would be Austin Meese, able to go 65 laps. So I think that might be the window that we're looking for, is maybe 65 is what Klein's looking for.
Yeah, for sure. And, really looking at this race's outlook for this, that's very good, boding well for Drew Blaze and Mike Fahey, who, like I said, needed to go 62 laps on their stints. With the likes of Klein here coming around for 64, maybe going to complete 65. That is, this is just a good sign for that group that they will be able to very much make that strategy work. And like I said, nobody out here going to be able to make a 2-stop from the end here because it's just way too far.
A little bit too far that gas tank cannot take you, but we continue to race on and wait for the 51 to make their stop. The rest of the field, they're going to be out there racing back and forth for position for quite a while. Expected to be the new leaders, Drew Blaze, Mike Fahey, and their competition that was running in second of Austin Smith, lingering back in 8th place. And Zach, I'm looking at the numbers, about 14 seconds back from Blaze as well as Fahey as Smith. That is quite a margin, but again, they're trying to cut a pit stop down as the 2 machine. So that's why you're willing to give up as much time as you had, and you're going to gain majority of it back throughout this run.
Yeah, I think that's the huge thing that these guys got to be looking towards, is trying to gain back that time. So we'll see how it works out right here as Windsor, again, 11 seconds back. But Blaze will be transitioning to the lead as soon as that 51 comes to pit road. Like I said, he is on pit road. Klein here coming down 66 laps for that 51. That is very impressive to see from him. Like I said, strategy still needs 2 more stops to end this race, but definitely a situation where he's put himself in a different boat than anybody else.
Yeah, and I think what helped Klein maybe a little bit more on this run compared to Smith, he was on older tires, so automatically was just running slower. That's why I was able to go a little bit further than the 2 machine. But everyone's made their stops. It's now the race to the next pit stop. Everyone's pretty spread out. There's a couple of lap cars battling back and forth. And with that, the field continues on. Zach, we get into these points of the race, where everyone's spaced out. You're in your own zone. I know we're talking about trying to stay focused. What's some of the ways, whenever you're doing such a races, do you prefer to maybe stay focused? I know some drivers, it's listen to music. Maybe it's stay in their own thoughts. I know some drivers like to have a team behind them talking. What are some of the other factors that maybe drivers are doing to try to stay focused?
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. I've always been a big fan of like having the teammates, just someone to bounce ideas off of, and even just goof around sometimes during these long green flag runs. You can just, a joke can sometimes, it can take you off focus. I've had issues where, I have talked and lost my focus. But at the same time, when you do these long races, sometimes you need that to snap you back in and kind of wake you back up, because again, it gets such a rhythmic feeling of lap after lap being completed around the same racetrack, same corners, that it really becomes, like I said, just almost like putting you to sleep. So you gotta wake yourself up. So teammates are always great to have for that. But also, I just think also is just staying focused on hitting your marks. If you're literally looking at that painted line every time, saying I'm going to get to you and I'm going to hook you every single time, like you see Drew Blaze right there, Mike Fahey, see those drivers right there putting the left sides on that paint. That is a huge thing to focus on, because Charlotte is all about that. If you get the left sides there, that painted surface is actually simulated as paint on that on the asphalt, and even in real life we see the drivers utilize it. It is so much more grip down there. You just get those left sides on it, and all of a sudden you just got a ton more grab from the inside of that race car.
Seen there for a quick moment, 3 wide off the exit of turn number 2, and it's Chris Klein, fresh rubber, and is about to make a move here on the 21, trying to get underneath. And Klein is not trying to waste any time or momentum. It is go for the pass. And Fahey saw that in their mirror, and the 45 immediately ducked high to get out of the way. Now Klein moves high, and McCarthy will follow in suit, trying to stick with the 51. But the brand new tires on Klein, there is the difference of about 28 laps of field of drivers that are trying to save fuel for the long run, and those that are going full bore like Klein was.
Yeah, Klein needs to go full bore too. He does not save anything. He needs to be out there running as fast as laps as possible around this racetrack to try to make up the time from pitting longer. You saw how big a difference was. He had to literally unlap himself. So we'll see how far he can get up ahead here and how much time he can gain back. But that is critical. Cannot lose any more time from fuel saving, as this group right here, I definitely still think they're thinking they just need to get to a certain number so they can feel confident for that final run to be able to push their race cars, because I think that's the critical thing. Never really plan for the now, plan for that future.
And for the future, and I'm curious for our leaders if they're feeling a little bit of a nuisance. I know for Fahey, they've got the 21 of Reich right behind them, and that 21 has about 15 lap fresher tires, and it's been poking the nose of thinking about going for the pass and then opts out, thinking about the pass then opts out, and having that indecisive driver behind you isn't helping the leaders at all. And once again, going high, forcing the issue, but again, I'm expecting a little bit of a back out, because getting close to the outside wall, not really putting the pressure down.
Yeah, really, like you said, Sam, got that pressure down, so we'll see how this works out. But right now, right on board with that 21 machine there, and I'm going to try to go by this group and on a good bit fresher tires, about 19 laps on the tires of Corbin Reich, who we were right on board, compared to our leader right ahead of him, about 33 laps. So we're seeing about a 13 to 14 lap difference, and it could make a considerable difference there, as you see Reich in the 21 trying to go around the outside, but they're also catching up to the 08 here. This is going to get interesting with Ken Couch.
Reich just waited too long. Now Ken Couch going to be a factor in this mix, and it might force the 21 to opt out and lose position to Fahey. And just in a blink of an eye, you thought the 21 was able to get by our leaders and finally run their own race. Instead, it's the lap car of Ken Couch that falls back. Excuse me, that's not even a lap. Going to be now the first lap drive, 1 lap down. This is poor position for the 21 of Reich. And what a bizarre scenario is the 08 loses time and ground, and Reich will fight on the inside to move up into this 11th place position.
Yeah, Ken Couch, 14 lap tire difference compared to Corbin here, and you're going to see that 21 just easily makes that pass up to 11th, and it is about another 5 seconds, I believe, up the road about a second up the road from that next position of Kyle McCarthy, who is getting caught by Drew Blaze and our leaders to put that 42 a lap down here.
We will stay in line for now, as not a lot of positions. Yes, drivers are close to one another, but no one's really showing signs they want to go for passes. So that's a sign for us. It might be a commercial break evening, as it's still a long one. We are now past halfway. First half is done. Got a few cautions here and there, but here this evening, who will find their way into victory lane? Is it those that are able to stretch the fuel out? It was those that pitted earlier. We'll find out here tonight as you're watching the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series. We'll be back right after this with more Charlotte racing action, as it has certainly been a wild one this evening. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Caution strikes as we were under our commercial break. Nicholas DeFrancesco, as well as going to be seeing the 30 of Caden Watts getting into one another off the exit turn number 2. Require damage for the 30 machine as well as the 24. And here's a quick replay of what put us under caution as we got to get back to live action soon. But just exit the corner, 2 drivers pinching in the 24. Nicholas DeFrancesco once again an instant victim, just trying to stay away from trouble, but I think that time might have been the 24's fault as the rest of the field stacked side by side. Welcome back to Freaky Fast Broadcasting. You're just joining us. You are watching the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series. This is race number 8 of the season. About halfway through the season, we've got still quite a few more races ahead of us. We got Watkins Glen, the one and only road course, next week with Pocono and Kansas. We are currently back to green flag action as Austin Smith are all headed down into turn number 1. Zach, now it's time to see how this field reacts because a lot of drivers, some topped off on fuel, others took tires, and oh boy, some only have 2 sets left for the rest of this race.
Yeah, there's a lot of different games being played, so to say, with drivers deciding when to take tires, when to not. Is up front, it looks like the 2 machine is getting attacked as the 88 of Drew Blaze has gone around the inside, and he's going to take the lead. But here comes Mike Fahey, here comes Russell Windsor, Chris Klein, everybody back right in the mix as Austin Smith tries to hold on to the second spot.
Only a total of 11 drivers on the lead lap because we had a caution in the middle of that green flag cycle. It now will put Drew Blaze in an opportunity. Does he want to be aggressive? He's been passive all night long of just setting the pace, setting the tone. Russell Windsor has been on the complete opposite side, but big block on the turn number 3. Blaze is not allowing the 14 to take that opportunity for the lead position. Behind them, outside wall is calling for Smith. It's calling for Klein, and they're all trying to survive on the outside. But Russell Windsor wants the lead. He wants it bad. And watch out for the 2, the 51 and the 8. Also a couple of others. The blue machines have been the danger zone, and they are holding back the field. But it's Windsor on the outside, taking the lead position into 3.
Russell Windsor in position back to the lead spot. And we saw him early in this race, was feeling so strong in that 14 car. Well, now back in that position that he wants to be in. We'll see. Everybody on the same fuel strategy now. Now tires are definitely a different, so to say, ballpark for that. We had Klein and I believe Smith definitely not take a set of tires with their time on pit road, but our top 5 definitely, in my opinion, all took tires.
We are on full go mode. Also going to be seeing the 33 of Crow, and they're going to go 4 wide off the exit, and Klein, Crow, contact. No one else is going to make it through as we stay green. The 2 of Smith involved, and oh no, it's Blackburn going around on the front stretch. We stay green as he's down into the grass. Continue to race on with the 155's day. Black flag is given to Blackburn as he continues to sit and showing no sign of go. But just trying to find a way to get around Crow, but Crow has no steering, clips the 155, and down into the pit barrels he goes. Wow, in a blink of an eye, we went from 11 drivers on the lead lap to now only 8 because 4 drivers are now with required damage and about to head into pit road.
Yeah, Austin Smith, one of those drivers, I believe his right front destroyed Harold Crow. We saw him couldn't turn his car already. So that is just huge hits all around from multiple different drivers. And Klein.
Also Klein's going to be that other driver with required damage, and that's going to send all of them into pit road. 8 drivers on the lead lap now. A majority of the drivers that did not take tires under that last caution are those that were involved with that wreck. That is wild. You just seen you fall back into traffic. It is a dangerous place to be sitting yourself. Speaking about danger, driver slamming the wall. Going to be the 707 to David Collins. He's in trouble. Also seen a couple of more drivers getting close. And that last incident, all coming down to drivers forcing the issue to go 4 wide. Shocking to see, but back to the lead. Drew Blaze not waiting for anything. He sends it to the inside. Also going to be seeing Mike Fahey following suit. And Windsor, earlier in the race, was easily able to just pull away and scamper away from the field. Not the case anymore, because he's got drivers that are willing to match the pace of the 14.
That's for sure, man. The 88, I think also the 45, they know they're not going to just let the 14 just drive away into the sunset and just run them back down, because they saw earlier in the race they let him do that, and at some point it evened out and they just couldn't keep catching him. So yeah, I think they know you got to stay with the 14 if you're going to want to be there out here. So this is going to be a fun battle, I think, all the way down to the end of this race with our top 5, because they're all right there.
Oh no, Windsor, Fahey, contact! 14 trying to drift it down low. Others forcing the issue through the middle. And that's the 707 that gets through. But Windsor, what a wheelmanship by the 14. He keeps it together, keeps going straight, but a massive loss of time. And Blaze saw all of that in his mirror.
That he did, and that was just a little bit of contact between Fahey and Windsor right on the entry of the corner. And what a job from the 14 to save that. That was about as gone as it possibly could. Got on the flat and caught that race car. So that was a great job. But now we check back in. Fahey right on the back bumper of this 88 ablaze. And I made the pick for Fahey tonight, and I felt just like he's been so close so far this season. And right now he's putting that pressure where the 88, who's already won it from Richmond, has got to think, how can I hold this 45 back?
And that Richmond race, under a little bit of controversy just based off how it ended, with all the black flags, the miscommunication of drivers getting about half the field all had a black flag that had to be served. And Drew Blaze was the one that took advantage of all the mishaps to take that victory tonight. A night that he could finally say that he won and was the best driver at the end of the evening, while Mike Fahey, on the other hand, is just the driver that's saying, you know what, I've been matching you in speed. The question is, can Mike Fahey just survive the night? Because that's been his issue all throughout this season. He's had top 5 speed. He should have probably won last week at Dover if he didn't get caught up in that wreck with 20 laps to go. The driver that he made contact with is one that's right behind him. That's going to be Alan Swan, as we're riding on board with a 3 machine there, getting a sense, trying to get by the lap machine, the 707 of David Collins, who's first driver 1 lap down. But Zach, with all of the fiasco drivers losing time, getting wrecked, Alan Swan finds himself in 3rd.
That he does. Great job by the 85, who's had, a night from anywhere from the top 5 now, top 3, all the way back to outside the top 10. So he's done a great job to really just keep his night all together so far. And 175 laps into this marathon, he has put together a good little piece of a race. So we'll see how this works for him. But right now, Chris Lawless, another driver who's really kind of charging up through. I wonder how that 3, we saw him charge and do a little bit of this earlier in the race and kind of lose speed later. But I think right here, just trying to find as much track position as possible. Is now Fahey up front. He's looking to the inside of that 88 Drew Blaze. He's looking for the lead.
Let the chaos reign. Second half of this race has really just mounted up. Different drivers now pointing that they want to be the one that takes the lead. But Fahey immediately takes the lead in the big scare out of turn number 4. Wiggle and stay away from the wall. And that checks up everyone up front. That's going to give Swan a chance to attack on the outside, but also lingering in 4th. It's the red machine. Might be seen red. It's Russell Windsor running down this group. Our top 5 are all still on top of one another.
Definitely a great job by Windsor to make this run back up to him. We'll see. The contact between him and Fahey, definitely nothing seemed malicious between the two. It just seemed like a little bit of contact, and Fahey was opening the corner a little bit up more on the entry, where Windsor was trying to, I think, chop down on entry a little bit more, and that caused a little bit of an issue there for those two to make that contact. But in my opinion, nothing too malicious from anybody there, so I don't think anything should come from that. But definitely a great job by this 14 to save not only his race car, but now drive right back into position once again.
Yeah, I'm not expecting there to be retaliation, as there was a little bit of apologies given back and forth. But as a driver, if you make that mental mistake that kind of throws away your run, you start to race a little bit more aggressive. As Swan, a little bit of a pinch on the 14 as they were going through the quad oval there, as the 14 now going to sneak his way to the inside. Windsor going to be clear, gets by Swan. Swan doesn't have the momentum to retaliate back. In our top 5, all within a second of one another. Corbin Reich, who we were talking about right before we went to a commercial break, about how he was just lingering behind our leaders with fresher tires and really not putting any pressure forward. He runs in 6th position We've also got Kyler McCarthy back in 7th. Boomer Shine has fallen back to 8th. This is kind of similar to what we saw last week from Boomer Shine, where he was a top 5, top 3 contender, and then in the later stages of the run, just kind of faded out away from anyone else that was in competition. Gotta give credit to Klein, who was just involved with that wreck that didn't bring out a caution, but the 51 damage repair tires are on and now is in attack mode. Same for the 30 machine. Seeing Watts in attack mode and go. Crazy to see all this action all around. Drivers going for big attempts, moves and salvage whatever you can. But Zach, all eyes on the top 5, especially on the top 2. It's Blaze, it's Fahey as they head into turn 3.
Yeah, these two right here really able to really stretch their legs, so to say, and he has done well so far since he's gotten this lead from the 88. So Fahey consistent out front so far. We'll see what his blue balls have in his pocket. What does Russell Windsor now have as he's up the 3rd also? I think if anybody would have to, you know, so far throughout the night, I would say these are probably our 3 most consistent cars. So to see him in the top 3 right now is Windsor a little tight off of 2. That's going to make him lose a little time, but he's luckily going to stay ahead of Alan Swan there for the time being. But yeah, I would say these 3 right here definitely got to be our top 2 as Windsor really driving in deep there.
I mean, you said he was building tight, but that's kind of the lane that this 14's been running for most of the night. It is a very high, late exit the 14 has, and he is just really risking it each and every lap. Even when he had the lead, he was running very close to that outside wall, just flirting with disaster, and continues on with this way. Update on some of those drivers that were caught up in the big wreck that did not bring out a caution 20 laps ago. Currently still in pit road is Harold Crow with still required damage. He's getting fixed up. Austin Smith officially out of this race. He has left the server. And Kenneth Blackburn, who we saw slam the pit wall after going through the grass. So he's gotten damage fixed and repaired. Currently 15 laps down, but back out on track for the 155 and 14th position. We're talking about how tonight was going to be a survival night. And if you just make it to the end of this race, you're most likely going to have a chance to maybe get a top 15, if not a top 10, with how ruthless this evening has been on drivers just being tossed around and spit out at the end of this night.
No doubt. I think this is going to be an interesting night when it's all said and done, where the actual results lay out. So I think you can see a lot of change. I mean, you look at the 55 DeBose right here. He's in 11th. He's a lap down, but I'm telling you, a caution comes out at a certain timing, just the way things work out. He could be on the lead lap fighting for a top 5 before it's all said and done. I mean, we talked about the 21 of Corbin Reich, who's in 6th. He was, you know, a lap down there fighting right before that green flag, all the sequence was going through. Now he's right here in 6th, about 6 seconds ahead of the next guy behind him, Kyle McCarthy. So right now, Reich just doing a great job here, looking to get a very solid finish out tonight if it continues on.
McCarthy, Reich, Bloomer, Shine to be your 8 drivers, besides our top 5 that are on the lead lap. Just trying to make whatever they can. As, oh no, trouble striking for Wilson. Also going to be Alan Swan battling inside of the top 5. And Wilson has trouble once again off the exit of turn number 2. The 14 and the 85 are battling against one another. And trouble strikes in now into pit road as Russell Windsor required damage. One of our faster drivers out of this race, and all because he got tight, hit the wall, and came down into Swan.
Yeah, you're going to get to see it here up high on the exit. It's kind of been his line, like you said, all night, but just too much there. Finally gets up in that wall, goes down into Swan. That bounces him back up, and that second hit, you can see the sparks fly. That is where I think that right front broke, and the 14 goes from leading laps in this race to now being sitting on pit road and going to be just feeling definitely very, very upset with how this is all played out for him.
Gutted, but it continues to dwindle down. Now down to just 7 drivers on the lead lap, and that survival marker has struck. Main reason why? We're into the unknown. Most of the mile-and-a-half races we've ran this season have been 175 laps. We are now at lap 188. This is that fatigue zone, that mental strength. You have to still have it set for the rest of this run because we still have over 110 laps to go here tonight. your night's not done in a long shot. On top of that, we still have maybe 1 to 2 more pit stops based off how long you can stretch your fuel out here tonight. So there is still a lot of mind games you got to figure out with your competition, as Fahey Blaze still on top of one another, and they are the closest battle for position on track.
Yeah, this is really made things very, very much between these two, mano y mano right now if we're in this green flag scenario, because Swan definitely losing some time, 32-15 that last time by. The contact sure didn't help that car. Right now, these two up front, only drivers running in the 31-second bracket. So, yeah, I think if you're this 85, you just got to now focus on trying to stay ahead of this 3 and this 21. I mean, if you're Chris Lawless, you're Corbin Reich, you are in a total shot of possibly getting your first podium of the season. And same, for, I believe, for Alan Swan, too. So this would just be huge for any of these 3 drivers.
Yeah, I mean, for Alan Swan, has yet to get a top 5 finish this season, but their best runs have been at the mile and a half. He's got a 7th at Atlanta, also got a 7th at Chicagoland. So there has been a lot of speed that has been at least been good enough for a top 10 for this 85. But the survivability factor is what's enabled him to be the driver in 3rd place currently.
Yeah, this has been such a good job of just, managing the night so far for a lot of these guys. And we say managing the night, but they still got so much farther to go, not even to the 100 to go marker yet, where I think it's going to really start to make people's brains really rack and say, what are we going to have to do here coming down to the end? And I'm interested to see what the strategy is going to be, because right now we're 31 laps into this run. You would imagine we're probably going to see them stretch it out to around that 60 lap marker. So we'll see where they get to into that point of the run, but in my opinion, that still doesn't set them up for a possible 1-stop. And some of these guys who took the tires that last time, I don't believe they're going to have more than 1 set of tires here.
No, it's going to get close, especially if we get maybe a couple of more quick cautions. It's going to put the mindset of, okay, do we want to use our set now? What if this race goes long? And those are going to be a lot of questions that loom up if we see cautions. But I know for us, we are getting closer and closer to 100 laps to go. We're going to step away. When we come back, it's more racing action here from Charlotte. As you've been watching the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series here tonight, race number 8. I mean, we thought last week at Dover had its ups and downs and chaos on who was going to be the points leader. Well, that might shift 2 races in a row. The points leader involved with a big wreck. And right now, Drew Blaze, if he can find himself in a victory lane, could be our new leader after this one. We'll find out when we come back with more racing action. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Ken Satellite and Portable Hauling LLC 600. A little bit less than 600 miles running here tonight. It's a total of 300 laps. We cut it down. And honestly, some of these drivers have cut down their distance already. We are missing almost half of the field at this moment. They've been caught up in wrecks, have had issues that have taken them out of this race. And your top two within 2/10. They are the closest battle for position currently, and they've been on top of each other since we got back to racing action. Honestly, for the past 100 laps, it's been Mike Fahey and Drew Blaze sticking together and being a pair throughout this running. Thank you so much for joining with us here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. My name is Sam Dyer. With me, Colin, on Monday nights is Zach Hall. Running productions is Robert Moyer Jr., and so far, it has been the Mike Fahey and Drew Blaze show since about lap 100. They've been the top two. They've been the favorites to win this thing if we stay clean and green. But that's going to be the factor of, can we do that? We're about 15 laps away from pit stops being underway for some of these drivers. Some might try to push a little bit further. Some might pit a little bit sooner. But it certainly has been a wild one to watch. Back in third place, we find Alan Swan, who's been off in his own world at this moment, and honestly for the best. When he's not being pressured, the 85 has been hitting his marks and trying to get first top 5 of the season. He's finished 7th twice so far. Can he get a top 5? Can he even get a podium? Right now, he's looking good in the 85. Moving from third place to the 3 machine is going to be Chris Alanis, who honestly has had a couple of scares here and there. He's had a couple of bumps and bruises of drivers getting into him and him getting into others. And there's a couple of more bumps and bruises to add on to this 3 machine. Runs 4th, but like we saw with Swan, and we're going to see a lot here tonight going through the field, no one's near him. This is a mental game of, can you run your own race for less than 100 laps left in this thing. 211 have been ran. And Zach, fourth place is the 3 machine, but who do you have down there in 5th?
Down here in 5th, about 2 seconds down the road, just getting passed by some lap cars. This is the 21 of Corbin Reich, and we talked about him running 6 earlier. That issue with the 14 moved him up into the top 5, and he's been definitely holding on to that spot ever since. He's about 6 seconds up the road from the car in 6th place. That's going to be the newcomer to the 42, Kyle McCarthy. And Kyle McCarthy, interesting for him, looking lap time-wise, he's about 3 to 4 tenths. Now, Reich is right in that traffic. You know, we saw him kind of getting right in the middle of all that. But, you know, it's not out the ground where we can see this 42 drive up into the top 5, so it could be in the possibilities. Now we're going to have to drop back to 7th. This is going to be our first car 1 lap down, Paul Boomershine, as he's going to be about 20 seconds down the road from these drivers. So Paul right now, being our first car lap down, is going to want to see that yellow flag come out, but it's definitely going to need some help from there. Back to that 8th position, it's going to be the 08 King Couch, and I think we focused on maybe hoping Paul Boomershine gets the wrong timing with that yellow flag, and he's the driver of that lucky dog spot, because right now he has definitely got a little ways up on the next year.
And I kind of want to touch on Ken Couch. Ken Couch, at one moment during this race, was back in 22nd position with 10 laps into this race, and was about to become the second driver a lap down at that time. He is survived. He got inside of the top 5 at one moment, and now currently, second car a lap down. This 08 has just been in survival mode. He's been a magnet around other drivers having issues, but him surviving is a big key for the 08 machine, going for a top 5 finish here tonight. We can drop back to 9th place, where we see our one and only patriotic scheme. It's the Navy scheme from the 55 of James Dubois. And seeing this 55 currently in 9th place, third driver 1 lap down, he is in a position where if he just continues to run smoothly, top 10 is all his, because the next driver behind him is 2 laps down, and almost the 55 is about to lap him. It's the 707 of David Collins. And Collins started off the day in the right spot, was given the pole, but didn't stay there for very long. This 707 has been struggling to find consistency on saving tires and staying quick. He burns it up very fast and then fades out of the question. And right now, 2 laps down, could be in the trouble of going 3 laps down at the pace that he's going. But Zach is 51, certainly the driver that I thought was going to be inside of our top 5, but outside of the top 10.
Yeah, tough situation there involved in that incident with the 4 wide moment we had there with those drivers that stayed out and got that, meatball flag that had to bring Chris Klein down there, get the car worked on. So he had required damage, had to get it fixed, and that lost him some laps. So right now, 3 laps down in 11th position. He is 1 lap ahead of the next driver we're going to drop back there, and that's going to be the 24 Nicholas Donfrancesco, who this season has had so much speed, just has not had the races fall his way. It just seems like caught up in many incidences. Did have a little incident maybe he caused even himself here earlier, so it's been a tough night for this 24 team as we drop back now to a car that's quite a considerable margin back, Sam. It's 10 laps here to Kenneth Blackburn as we get into the cars that have had major damage and major repairs on pit road.
Yeah, Kenneth Blackburn, a driver that we saw caught up in the wreck that happened during this green flag run that took out about 5 drivers, and heavy damage was given to the 155, slammed into the pit wall, got the damage repaired. Over 7.5 minutes of damage that he had to get repaired and fixed up. Currently 14 laps down, but just surviving is the key. Currently runs in 13th position is Blackburn. A driver that we saw blinking for a couple of moments there under our commercial break. It's the 30 of Kenneth Watts. Watts has been an interesting driver to watch out for. This 30 machine struggling to find consistency as well. I think that's what we're going to say a lot for a lot of these drivers further on back, is they have moments where they're fast, but they just overdo it at times. And right now, the 30 has been caught up in some misfortunes that have put him with heavy damage, and currently 17 laps down. And then back in 15th, it's Harold Crow, who is fought. He is damaged. He is still dealing with things over the radar, over the radio. Is currently trying to give notice to drivers that he is damaged and wounded, and to find ways around them. But Zach, this 33, is certainly trying his best in 15.
That's for sure. Not the only driver left out there for him, too. This is the 16th position. We're going to go to our points here coming in tonight. Last week's winner, it's all Samiz. Had a tough position getting involved in that wreck earlier. Had to get the required damage fixed. He's been out there trying to complete laps, get back any position he can claw back, because at one point was outside the top 20 with a lot of these drivers. Now he's up to 16th, so managing to at least not lose as many points as he would have hoped he would after that incident. So great job by him. As we go to our final driver on the racetrack that's still out there circulating, 66 laps down, back in 19th. Actually, no longer circulating. I thought he was, so he just came in recently here and hit pit road. So Jordan Maddox, Knight's over in 19th, but 16 cars out there still turning laps.
16 cars out there, and a couple of battles are starting to build out. For the lead, it's still within 2/10, and really no change in positions going on there, but starting to see the wear and tear on tires showing some momentum, and one of those with the big loss is going to be Paul Boomershine. Boomershine falling from 7th now to 9th and heading to pit road now, and it's required damage. And it could be the fact of a blown tire for the 92, because he lost a lot of time quickly. And Zach, blink of an eye, and it's Boomershine showing weakness, which if drivers are losing their tires, that is a thing to worry that I don't think we ever had on our notebooks to watch out for.
Definitely not tonight for Charlotte. Wouldn't put that one on my bingo card, right? You know what I'm saying? But hey, stretching out these full runs like this sometimes definitely can hurt the tires so much. And looking at the lap time, see the way he had the tire, they dropped off, that is definitely a telltale sign, in my opinion, of the tire going down. More than anything, I think just kind of blew that right front tire, probably going, and just made that car really tight. So see where Fahey and Drew Blaze pit, because I think that's going to be important. But like you said, the battle that was heating up was really that 3rd, 4th, 5th, and even 6th position. Really, Kyle McCarthy still within a good considerable margin of that group ahead. He's running faster times than all of them. That battle for 3rd is still on, and even the battle for the lead is now Blaze is taking the lead, it looks like.
It looks like it's going to be a battle for the lead position. And yes, it was just a blown tire issue that happened for the 92. So we're going to move to the lead battle that is live currently, because it is in a blink of an eye. Blaze takes the lead, and Fahey is sliding into pit entry, almost completely threw this race away. Luckily, no black flag given to the 45, but an aggressive pit entry that almost threw it away. Now going to be Alan Swan making a very passive and non-aggressive entry for pit road for the 21 and also for the 85. Kyler McCarthy, though, a lot more aggression on the 42 to get into pit road. Could be a big gain of time for himself when he gets into his box and out quick.
And And right here, this would be with 74 to go in this race. And Drew Blaze coming down this time made 67 laps. And he would be with 73 to go after his pit here. So don't see any realm where I think they're going to make it on fuel, Sam. That tells me we've got another stop to go, but I think these drivers also using their last sets of tires. The question is going to be, when does the splash of fuel come? Because do you wait to the last moment? I really think you're going to have to see if you can catch a caution, because if you come down and splash early and you do get a caution, that's just going to ruin everything.
Well, I do believe a lot of the field has taken at least one pit stop where it was just fuel only. So I believe a lot of these drivers still have at least 2 sets. Some might only have 1 set to finish out this race. And if you have 1 set left, I mean, if this race goes green, with how tight we've been seeing the exit of the corner be, Zach, I got to throw it to you. Is 2 tires a worthy call to make if it's a splash and go for that final pit stop?
I would say, yeah, 2 tires, especially if they're dealing with the balance of a race car being pretty tight, and you know the run is going to be anywhere, in my opinion, half the distance. So say we're going around 60 laps here on these runs, maybe you go 30 on 2 tires. I think that would be a gain still over the 4 tires, just because that first really 15, 20 laps, you're actually going to see a probably increase in the balance of the car, shifting a little bit more to the freer side, which is going to lead to the car turning better, getting through the center of the corner better. Also, with the nighttime being a condition, I really just think it would be an overall great thing to have for the race car. So we'll see if anybody elects to do that. But right now, Drew Blaze flying up through. He's done a great job, because look how much time he gained through that sequence over Fahey. Right there, so much time.
He was flying. Everyone was getting out of the way, and he was pushing it. On that run, Fahey last lap was about 4/10 faster, but we were talking about that painted line. You want to get down there, and that's exactly what Blaze is doing. Also, touch on the fact of weather conditions. Air temperature really hasn't shifted that much, but track temp has dropped 2 degrees since we started this race. It is now down to 79 degrees Fahrenheit. We started around 81 when we started this race on track temp, so it's been only a couple of degrees here and there, but that can be massive on the grip levels, on how fast you can go. And look at that. Mike Fahey is right on the back bumper of Blaze, and we're right back to where we were before, Zach. These two following in suit.
Mano y mano again. Yeah, I felt like it was going to be a battle all the way to the end. And again, I don't think the fuel mileage is going to be there for these two. So I think if anything, you really just got to, outsmart the other one on what you're going to do with your strategy, unless, I mean, if you're the likes of Drew Blaze, maybe you can get behind him and save enough to do 73, but I just don't see you be able to keep up, save that much fuel. It just doesn't seem to be worth it, in my opinion. I think they're going to have to make some splash, and right here, they're going to go to battle anyways, as Fahey looks to get back to the lead, where I think Drew Blaze is just willing to ride that second spot.
Yeah, I mean, now you're not worrying about the fuel, all out salvaging the tires for the long run, and we saw this similar thing happen the last run, where Blaze let Fahey drive on by. Then Blaze ran him down and was right on the back bumper for most of the run. It's just that same yo-yo effect that's going to happen here. Blaze is willing to give up the time, and he's been willing to do that. Honestly, between any driver that's ahead of him, he will just give up the time early, recognizing I'll get it all back because I'm saving my rubber for that later push when my tires are better. And yours is falling off of a cliff, as well as they're catching up to a little bit of traffic. This is going to be Blackburn in the 155. Now we're seeing Fahey go to the inside, make the pass cleanly, and away they go. And the rest of the field, well, almost every battle for position, if way the speed of Mike Fahey's going, is going to be up to almost a second or more difference between everybody. Right back to where we were before, of the waiting game, the watch and see of when do you want to pit, because there's really no other driver you're competing against for most of this field. I think the closest battle right now is about to be the battle for 6th place, which is the first driver 1 lap down between McCarthy and David Collins, which really isn't a battle because McCarthy's got fresh tires and he's got the better, cleaner car, and away the 42 goes. Now the first driver 1 lap down.
Nice clean pass there from McCarthy, able to slide himself back into the 6th position. And that battle between that top 3 really, for that 3rd final position, I think is going to be very interesting when it's all said and done. McCarthy seems like he's lost a lot of time there on pit road somehow. He's about 17 seconds back, even though it seems like he only pitted 1 lap later. So yeah, that was a Oh, well, a huge loss on pit road entry, so must have had an issue there for him, so I'm saying, because he's over a minute on pit road.
Yeah, he was in there for quite a while for the 42 and looked to be some trouble on the way out as he was having some issues getting into his box, had some repairs, and also looked to be maybe a little bit of a hold that the 42 had to serve. That's why it was extended time in pit road for McCarthy, who runs in 6th. And Zach, I'm looking at the numbers. I'm looking at the times. Everyone's already pitted that's on the lead lap. There's a chance if we stay green all the way to the end of this race, our top 2 would be the only 2 on the lead lap at the end of this thing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, their pace is very, very strong. So I wouldn't put it out of the picture. I mean, those 2 have been able to really pull themselves away from everybody. The one thing I will say, Fahey has turned it up another notch. So if anything, in my opinion, like, you gotta have a set of tires left in pit road to be pushing this hard, because if you don't have a set of tires, you're gonna have to run your longest run of the night with this set of tires. So I just see, like, the top 2, they definitely believe have a set in the bag still. So I would, if anything, I kind of like what Fahey's doing of pushing hard, because you don't have to go the full distance to just wait for that splash. You can kind of cut this race in half and make it a lot quicker by just pushing hard.
Yeah, I mean, you can push aggressively, build out this lead, and then maybe pit around lap 50, 250, 260. That's about 30 laps into this run, and then it's just a 40-lap sprint to the end that you have to worry about. This gap has ballooned out. It was within a 10th. Actually, Drew Blaze was ahead of Fahey. Fahey made the pass, and it just extended this lead to over 4.5 plus on distance. I'm looking at Blaze. He's 7/10 off the pace. He's not even just off the pace of the driver ahead of him. Right now, Alan Swan is even faster than Blaze. I don't know if he's saving fuel. He is right there. Clutching up is the 88. That's a lot of time that this 88's trying to save, but if he can somehow have the gap, you technically can save enough to a point where it's crazy how much time you're losing, but because the 45 has to pit, you can actually have the lead over the 45 with 20 to go.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, because the way I look at this, with how much time he's losing, he's got to save 6 extra laps on his fuel tank. He ran 67 that last time. He needs to go 73 laps on a tank of fuel to make it all the way to the end of this thing. And that's where I have a concern, because it's just, that is so much fuel to save. And right now, running at the pace he's running, if this continues on for the whole time.
Trouble behind him. It's going to be seeing Watts into the grass. Also going to be seeing Crow into the grass. We stay green once again. Trouble afoot for some of these drivers, but no yellow flag is thrown.
Oh, definitely don't want to see that happen there. I mean, that's 2 drivers that are 15th and 14th on this track right now, and 18, 19 laps down. Don't want to have an effect on the overall race, and definitely a very close incident here. As you see the 30 on the bottom, Harold Crow goes to the top here, looking to go around Klein, and then kind of just tries to look to cut in between there. There's no gap there. I mean, the 30 was just there. There's really nothing Caden could do.
No, not at all. And they're going to be having a similar situation pop up once again, because they're catching up to DeBose in the 55. And we'll see how Crow wants to get around this incident. And both the 30 and the 33 have to be careful, because they are both very close to hitting that drive-through black flag penalty. And if they get any more than that, they could be finding themselves getting disqualified from this race with still 55 laps to go here tonight. There's still a lot of time, and you want to avoid getting any more trouble for yourself. But Caden Watts just lets Crow go on by, and the 33 is on the charge. But back to the conversation at hand. Drew Blaze trying to save fuel. And Zach, I'm looking at when we were riding on board with the 88, when he was backing off, trying to save the fuel, I feel like he's got to back off sooner than he is. I understand he's clutching and trying to save fuel, but I feel like you got to let off so much sooner. Like right when he come out of that quad oval, you got to start backing off to save fuel. It just seems like he's not letting it go as far on saving now. It seems like he's trying to stretch it out further into the run, but it's going to get close. I wonder how aggressively Saban he's going to have to do later on in this run.
My thing is you have to be decisive with this too. Right now, he needs to be sure that he can, if he continues at the pace he's doing, can make it. Because if you're not sure that's going to work out, then I think that is where your brain starts to go into, oh no, I got to pick up the pace again, but he's already given up 7 seconds to the leader of Fahey. You're not going to make that time back up. So he's got to stick to what he's doing now with how much time he's given up, and this is where you get to see what strategy is better, who has played their cards right, and man, just definitely a situation.
I mean, I'm just confused on Blaze's point here. I mean, I get that you're thinking let's change up the strategy, but you were right on top of Mike Fahey. You were leading this race, and then you opted into the strategy. I don't understand that call, because you're opting out of a potential just race it out brawl. We're going to be on top of each other. We know where our competition is. It's just you and me. Whoever's faster wins this race. To I hope my competition doesn't just find magical more speed, and hopefully I find the one that's going to allow me to find more gas. This is throwing your fate away instead of just racing this out, which is kind of bizarre to see this long of a race to throw this type of strategy out.
Yeah, this is the question I made, because like, and personally, he was sitting in the best position over 45. We've seen each run. It seems like the 88 has been better at the very, very end or tail of the run. So maybe the only concern he had was if it was, you know, these shorter runs where it was split into one half their run, he wouldn't have the pace to keep up. But I just don't know about saving 6 laps of fuel. That is a lot of fuel to save around a big racetrack, and a lot of time to give up, because Fahey might even be able to hit a pit stop and come back around and pass him. That's my thing.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you're Mike Fahey, I would pit now. I mean, wait maybe another lap or so, but 40 laps, put down some wildly quick times, make it a little bit easier to run down this 88. This is crazy to see. But for us here tonight, this could be our final commercial break of the evening. We're going to take it. Strategy is on the line. Is it pitting or is it saving? Who's got the better call between Mike Fahey and Drew Blaze? Or could someone else try to steal it here late? We'll find out when we come back to more Lone Star NASCAR iRacing Series action for race number 8 at Charlotte. And you can see Mike Fahey's in trouble. Blaze as well. Who's got the better call? We'll find out after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series, and drama is afoot. The 51 of Chris Klein, trouble leaving pit road, a spot that has had issues before. There's a couple of nasty bumps that will hit the field, and the 51 got hurt off the exit. And it was just as simple. You hit the bump and we're going for a ride. Let's see what the 51's whole pit sequence was with, because it was simple. Go in, get fuel, tires, and take off and go. But Zach, in the blink of an eye, we got ourselves a caution, and we're about to have a shootout to finish things out here tonight.
You know, I've done this exact same thing before. I can't blame Chris too much for this, because I'm going to be honest, I've come off a pit road here multiple times, and there's a huge bump, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it literally, look, that was almost just cold tires too, but there is bumps there on the exit pit road here in Charlotte that are very detrimental sometimes, and when you're on cold air pressure and low air pressure like that, the car just reacts in weird ways, and unfortunately it broke right there, and that's what brought that yell out. So this is changed the whole landscape of this race here, Sam. As you know, it was looking like Fahey was the driver on the prowl there, and Blaze was trying to save the fuel, but now no fuel issues. It's all going to be about how quick your car is.
How quick your car is, but also Fahey in trouble. Looked like during that run, got a little bit of side damage on the right side, hitting the wall. Had to stay in pit road for extended time. Falls to second, but still has a little bit of right side damage. Drew Blaze, honestly, lucks out completely with this caution. Went with the wild gamble of let's try to save fuel over racing things out at the end. And the 88 now going to be in the lead, has equal tires, and no worry of fuel. This is perfect for the 88. The 45, though, I'm nervous, Zach. You got a little bit of damage. Yes, you were quick, but how do you want to react getting by some of this field? This also is going to help out the field to get us back to at least 5 drivers on the lead lap, as Corbin Reich will get the lucky dog pass to move into 5th position, as plenty of other drivers hoping to get a wave around. Not gonna be the case to get them back out there on racing conditions, but a bizarre run. Certainly an interesting one, as we have gotten the one to go. We're about to get back to green flag racing.
Yeah, this is gonna set things up very much interesting now, because you know, we talked about the top 3 battle. Well, it's Alan Swan, Launis, and Reich here on the lead lap, battling for that podium. Now Boomershine, McCarthy, Dubose, or sorry, not Dubose, he's 2 laps down, but Paul Boomershine and McCarthy going to be 1 lap down. So if we do get another yellow, those 2 fighting for that lucky dog, trying to get that position, that will be very critical if you want to go fight for a top 5. But right now, top 5 on the lead lap, as it's going to be under 40 to go, and I can tell you, it's going to be very much a push all the way to the end. I don't think you're going to see too much saving from this run. You're going to have to definitely push a lot harder, I think, than you have all night.
It's going to be how can you make it to the end. Chris Klein officially calls it a race after that moment that he just had. We also have an update for Russell Windsor. Sounds like he was having some freezing issues. It happened a couple of times throughout the race, and then at the time of contact between himself and Swan, it was a screen going black, and he had full control, was trying to keep it off the 85, but just wasn't able to. As the Kens gonna be seeing the 600 here tonight underway, I gotta say, this is gonna be certainly a race to the end. How can you survive 36 laps to go here tonight? It's already gonna be Drew Blaze leading the way with Mike Fahey behind. Is it between these 2, or will there be more chaos as you're seeing the back half of the field, old tires and new tires going back and forth?
There you go, Sam. This is going to be some wild stuff. Blaze has done a great job to get a great launch on the beginning of this first lap, but Fahey is going to be right here in tow, and he's already looking there, crossing low as they cross the start-finish line to look to that inside. But I think it's going to be all about aggression here and which driver is going to be willing to risk it more. I think Fahey has shown this season he is willing to push really, really hard and get out in the front in the lead. Blaze has been that driver that's willing to kind of drop back to second and give up that time and try to close in later. But I think this is going to not only shape up to be a great battle, but they got Alan Swan there, who's definitely putting the pressure on also.
Yeah, Swan's putting the pressure on. If you're thinking about last week, it was 20 to go when he got into the contact between the 85 in the 45. That ruined Fahey's chance for victory. Well, Fahey, you got to stay off the apron. Went too far low, and now falls to third and back to fourth. It's Alan Swan, Drew Blaze, and the 85, the 88 trying to make the pass. But here comes a little bit of lap traffic chaos. What does Meese, what does McCarthy do as they're trying to find a way to be the first driver one lap down? And that looks to be McCarthy for now, but he's got to stay ahead. A Boomer Shine behind him. And here we go. Swan to the outside. The 85 trying to get to the outside quarter panel. Not able to do so. And Zach, Swan's got a chance to make a little bit of magic.
It's the mad dash to the end of this race here. Everybody going for it now. This is what these cars can do. Really push them. They get side by side. The drafting becomes wild. And look at Fahey after the mistake, right back behind. But it's Swan on the outside trying to take the lead here late in the going and do what nobody thought he could right here. It is take the lead. Man, what a chop on Swan as it come off of 2. Blaze slides into second, but it's going to be Fahey in the 45 trying to make the comeback after that slide off of 2.
But Alan Swan, there's still 32, about to be 31 laps to go. You can't overcook your tires just yet. Blaze trying to defend outside, inside. Doesn't want any more drivers to be between himself and the 85. But it's Mike Fahey, third place runner, and gonna be the third driver on the inside, just trying to hold steady. But Blaze puts the block, puts a stop to the momentum, and the 45 now in trouble of losing even more grounded time. But here we go, McCarthy now gonna be the second car out there, but he's one lap down, trying to lap himself the hard way.
Definitely go try to lap himself the hard way. Still gotta go up there and get past Alan Swan. But I think some of these drivers pushing so hard here, Sam, it's going to be interesting to see if they can keep the tires on. Austin Mees here, he's a 16th place car, 20 laps down right now in the mix, racing with this group. This is definitely interesting scenarios.
Boomer Shine recognizing what his goal is. The 92 needs to close up to the 42 for them to have a chance to be the first driver one lap down, or both. Just unlap yourself the hard way. He's doing a little bit of blocking right in on board with Fahey. This is the battle for second. You see that DadBod machine right in front. That is the second place runner of Drew Blaze. Mike Fahey in third that we're right in on board with. But it's Alan Swan. Gotta think for the 85 leading this race. Just let the lap cars go. Don't challenge them too hard. That's burning up your tires by trying to fight and hold back the lap machines. Just let them go. Save your stuff up. But Swan, I don't think he recognizes the scenario he's in, because he is fighting to hold back McCarthy and others.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, can the tires hang on for that 85. We've seen so far throughout tonight, when drivers push really, really hard, they do overheat, they do cause issues. And I think if you're Swan, he's just trying his best to just drive away from that group and hopefully be far enough away. But I do think at some point you're going to start to see the tires overheat. That 88 and that 45, I don't think they're nowhere near out of this thing yet. I expect them to be closing at the gap at some point, but I'll tell you what, these lap cars will play a factor, because if they start to struggle and overheat, they're going to be stuck right in front of that group too.
And just like that, Boomer Shine now being the first driver one lap down, getting by McCarthy on the outside. And still it's Alan Swan riding that middle groove. The defensive line now ducks down low at the apex, then to move back up high to basically putting dirty air in all the lanes. And now it's 3 lap cars in between our leader and second and third place runners, and not just too far back. At one moment, the 21, we talked about how he's just sitting there. He's got the tires to pass our leaders. It's Reich. It's Corbin Reich in that 21 Red Bull machine. Fourth place runner. He's got a chance of a podium right now, watching Fahey and Blaze.
Yeah, he does. This is a great run for Reich, and gotta love that for him. Also, Chris Launis, who is about 8/10 behind this group. You see his next car out behind him. He's, I think, just kind of sitting, watching, waiting to see what happens, because I tell you what, if someone makes a mistake up here, there could be a big wreck, and if anything, you could have a lot of drivers involved.
I'm nervous that it's going to be our leader. Swan looks a little bit out of control. I don't understand. Like I said, I don't know if he knows the scenario's in. He's never been in this spot of leading this race. There are levels of drivers that you can fight and let go and don't overcook your tires. The 85 is in a losing battle at this moment with the last 4 laps and how he has defended lap cars for some reason. He's now riding the wall and now into the wall. And this is going to give Blaze a chance to fight back for this lead, but Swan back and forth. Now the lap cars are gone. Now you see your competition in your mirror. How do you defend Blaze? How do you defend Fahey? And it looks like it's continuously running high and hoping that you just have a big enough momentum to hold this lead position. But Blaze and Fahey and Reich just look a little bit too strong, still having some rubber.
Now Austin B's here. That lap down car, 20 laps down, right there in the mix also. We'll see how he plays out. This picture is right here. The 85 too tight off the exit of 4. Blaze in the 88 machine up to the lead here in the final going of this race. Just before we get to 20 to go, the Drew Blaze makes the pass, but it's the 85 diving back into the entry. But turn more, but I think it's just going to be too much. And now look at Fahey. He's following the 88 through. That's exactly what the 45 needs to do if he wants a chance and an opportunity to race that 88 for the victory.
And also going to be Corbin Reich, who's just trying to follow in line, stay low, save the tires. You'll be able to get by this 85 very quickly, while the 97 is just trying to survive at this moment. Now it's Swan able to get down low, put a little bit of clearance on Reich, and Reich just doesn't look like he's really in the position to fight. He's willing to settle where he's at, take the positions when they're there, and not really overdo it as he's watching the competition do so around. Now it's going to be the drivers that are in front of our leaders, McCarthy as well as Boomershine. They're fighting now instead of for the lucky dog to stay on the lead lap. But Blaze and Fahey are putting the pressure, the 92 and the 42. You better scamper away because we're about to have a fight for the lead here in a blink of an eye.
That we are. Those two trying to stay on the lead lap the old-fashioned way, but I just don't think it's going to happen for long. These two are classing all night. And right now, the 88, the 45, making the move down low. And I think they know once they get clear, it's going to be on 20 to go here. It's going to be a battle between these two all the way to that checker flag. So I'm excited to see how that's going to play out. We got a black flag, actually. Nicholas Don Francesco is going to have to come to pit road here for a black flag. So 24 back in 11th, going to have to pit, but this battle up front stays hot.
Yeah, and that reason why was the fact of the 30 machine of Caden Watts making contact with a 24, and that is a drive-through penalty for Don Francesco. We were expecting to see maybe a couple of those drive-throughs. We don't want to see disqualifications, but the way some of these drivers have been getting into one another, getting into the wall, going through the grass, it's bound to happen here with 20 laps to go. Drew Blaze, Fahey, gonna be the two drivers on the inside. Behind them, battling for third is Alex Swan, just swerving back and forth after tapping the wall. And it's gonna be Corbin Reich just taking his time. I mean, not even trying to go for the pass still. He continues to just watch the 85 go through all of the mistakes and misery at this moment. But for the lead, lap cars, lead lap drivers. If you're Mike Fahey in this scenario, Zach, I mean, there really is not much you can do. You're just stuck following the 88 and hope that they get into a clearance where you can finally battle as we're coming up to 18 laps to go.
It really is kind of worst case scenario that we stuck right there, second car on the bottom, because you know, for Blaze, he's at least got the clean air on the bottom. And the thing is, he's just going to check up the inside there, really roll it back, just try to stay alongside. If you're Blaze, you stay alongside here, you know that it's going to be very hard to pass. And it's going to take something very special here from Fahey. As you see how close he gets on entry there, that's what I'm saying. He's going to have to somehow get to that outside quarter panel if he wants to go around, but it's just tough, those lap cars up top.
Well, it's a little bit of mind games because once you see Fahey go up to the outside to try to work with the lap cars, that's when Blaze takes off. He kind of uses a little bit more of the rubber to keep it side by side as Boomershine now continues to ride on the outer groove, and Fahey, he's just hoping to stay in front of the 97. Now going to finally clear up into the outside, and here we go. Boomershine trying to take off and go. Blaze has to make the decision. Do I take off or do I settle? And it's Fahey on the outside. Rolls with the lap cars, and Fahey looks good to try to clear up the exit turn number 4. He needs Boomershine to get a good exit for himself, and he will. Fahey has the lead now. Will drop down low. Contact with Blaze. Blaze holds on. Fahey continues through. And just like that, the 45 has the lead position. Will we see retaliation from Blaze? It just looked like a little bit of clearance. It wasn't fully done. There's also battling back for third as Reich and Swan are going back and forth. But it's Fahey leading the way with 16 to go.
It's going to be Reich making the pass for third. Fahey making the pass for the lead. It's Blaze. He's also going to lose the positioning, the Boomershine. Now Fahey, he's going to look to make the pass on that number 42 machine that lap, last car on the lead lap, and try to get clean air, because I think that's going to be the critical phase here as we get closer and closer to 10 to go, as Blaze makes a big power move to clear the 92 down the back straightaway to make sure to keep up that 45.
And the big thing for Fahey, I mean, he was sitting behind Blaze for so long. When Blaze wasn't going aggressively quick, it was also helping the 45 save a little bit of his tires. He didn't have to force the issue. And now the game switch. Fahey utilizing the lap cars, a little bit of a pick, but not waiting to stay there for long as McCarthy fades back. Blaze moves forward, and now a little bit more clean air. Now it's going to be the 33 of Harold Crow. Where will he go to get out of the way? Does he stay in the fight? So many different opportunities. The 33 will stay high, trying to get out of the way of this competition, which will force McCarthy in line. And here we go, Zach, the leaders. They're in line. They're ahead of the lap cars. Let the race begin with 13 laps to go.
That they are. This is great to see. Also, Swan has dropped back to 5th. Chris Launis is now driven up into 4th. He's only about 2-3 tenths behind Corbin Reich, so the battle for the podium still going on also there. Also with this battle for the lead, that's going to go all the way to this checker flag. I have the feeling that it's going to be a tough one. What I really like that I'm seeing those things is that 88 is able to stay a little bit lower in the corner. She's able to stay right on that painted surface. That's going to be huge for getting good runs off the corner to get that cleaner air.
And I think the reason why during this run, Mike Fahey tried to utilize that same point of staying to the painted line and just ride it. He went a little bit too far a couple of times. It might have spooked the 45 to where he just doesn't want to even attempt it anymore. It's just too much of a loss of time and ground. And now it's given the opportunity for Blaze to have that chance. And also because he's driving lower, he's got the cleaner air, trying to negate a little bit of that dirty air effect that you're dealing with. But across the line, it is Fahey, Blaze, Reich, and Launis are going back and forth for 3rd. That one's going to be a fun one to see who can finally take that podium spot. But Fahey and Blaze through 1 and 2, it's all Drew Blaze. Blaze is so much better through that corner.
Yeah, 1 and 2 is where he's really painting that white line. And look right here, he's going to look to the outside in the 3 and 4. Fahey has to make sure he's able to stick this center of the corner, because the 88 is going to turn down right in the wake of the 45 and have a good run. And the thing that's helping the 88 also a little bit, if you have that 42 who was closer before, lost a little bit of time there, when he's close within about a half a car length, that gives you a good shove down these back straightaways, and these straightaways where you get bigger runs. But look right there, 1 and 2, he stays so much lower. If the 45 can just get that car lower, he takes away that air, he takes away that momentum from the 88 that he's doing down here. A much better job, in my opinion. 3 right here, where he gets a lot lower. He doesn't get all the way to the painted line, but at least he's getting half of that car down there.
And what's hurting Fahey on the entry of turn 3 is because of how much of a good run Blaze is getting. He's kind of forcing the 45 to go in a lot more aggressive into the corner, which is hurting the tires and the overall state. 9 to go now for the field. And Fahey, Blaze. Fahey, that's the best 1 and 2 we've seen so far. But Blaze slams the wall. The 88 continues on moving, but that is not the contact you want, especially after the run Fahey just had.
That is the tactical usage right there of the dirty air. If you can place your car in spots, it'll take away the air. But right there, big loss of off the exit of the corner. This is going to be a big run for the 88 here. This is going to be an opportunity down in the 1. If he can get to the inside, it's going to be tough. But if you're Fahey, you just need to get here to the bottom and take away that clean air. It just really takes away a lot of the run here off of 2. And you can see, did a great job. Was able to really stabilize everything there. Also behind us, Chris Launis has moved past Corbin Reich, so he's up to 3rd also, so into a podium position for the 3 car, but the battle up front stays here as we go down to the very end of the wire.
And that is a massive run for Launis to try to go for the first top 5. Same going to be for Swan. I believe that also the same is going to be made for Corbin Reich in that 21 machine, all going for their first top 5s of the season, all going for their best finishes. A lot of them have finished 7th multiple times. Thought they would never break that barrier. Well, tonight could be the night for those 3 drivers that run 3rd, 4th, and 5th. At this current moment, only drivers on the lead lap is your top 5. And here we go. 6 laps to go tonight. Fahey, Blaze, these 2 drivers, this could have been the battle for who was going to win last week at Dover, but Fahey got taken out, Blaze got shoved out of the way. They were 2 non-factors in the final 15 laps But Zach, here tonight, a week later, it took him over 295 laps, but Fahey and Blaze are now going to be side by side into 3, and it's a little bit of an aggressive push by the 45, and here we go. Blaze trying to get to the inside quarter panel. This could be game over for the 45 machine. Cross the line. It's Drew Blaze leading that lap with 5 to go.
Yeah, that move there, as all the 45 drives it deep in the 1, he's going to get real tight there in the center, but he's actually able to get off the corner well enough that like the 88 can't get a run. So that was worked out, but that block down the back straightaway I think was useless. It really just hurt the entry of the corner more than anything for the 45. Gave the opportunity for the 88 to really turn up off the corner and slide up underneath him. So if you're Fahey here, don't throw that too big of a block unless you really need it. I don't think that was necessary. He could have really held that run up by just staying high.
4 to go in our top 4, giving us a show here in the later stages. Fahey, Blaze, not a lot of passing back and forth that we've seen tonight between these two. It's been just them on top of one another. But Blaze has been the one that's been behind the 45 all night long. Zach, you got to think, if you've been following the same driver for a majority of these 297 laps, you're hoping that you figured out something to get by the driver ahead. And the question then looms with 3 to go. Did we already see Blaze's one opportunity be snuffed out? Does he have any more? Or is it over and done? Just like it seems to be for the battle for 3rd. Looks like Chris Lonis is going to hold on for that position unless Reich finds a little bit of magic. But the battle for the lead, Blaze is returning back. He's almost to the bumper.
I think if you're this 45, you cannot, more than anything, as long as you can stay alongside on the entry of the corner, you cannot give up your right rear. I just really feel like blocking is only going to be detrimental. Let that 88 make the move, put it on his quarter panel, and pull him back. That is going to be, I think, the crucial move. If you can at least keep him back, give him the dirty air too, it's just going to be really critical. As you can see, Alpha 2, actually a very good run for the 88, even though the 45 very good with his marks.
And people are throwing a little bit of jokes with 2 laps to go. Let's play it a little bit easy. And Mike Fahey over the radio saying that it includes me, as the 45 is feeling the pressure. He knows there's a chance. And now he looks up to the flag stand. No more cautions are worried. It's the last lap here from Charlotte. It's going to be the 45, the 88. Who will win the Charlotte 300 here tonight? Because this 45's done everything. And Zach, just one more corner to go.
Great job hooking the bottom there. The 88 did a good job too, but just too tight on the exit here as we go down to 3. Can he get to the bumper? He does.
And there's Blaze trying to force up the 45. Fahey trying to stay off the wall. He keeps his foot in the throttle. And Mike Fahey survives, makes it to the end. And finally a winner in the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series.
Huge victory there for the 45, and what a job to solidify that as Chris Lawless behind this group comes home to take home a podium. Corbin Reich in 4th and Alan Swan in 5th. Great top 5 finishes all around there for everybody. But Mike Fahey, it's your night, buddy. He's the winner here at Charlotte.
We've said it every single week. If the 45 can just finish the race, he will be a threat. And he proves it at the race that's all about survival. 300 laps in the books, and it's Mike Fahey getting it done. Enjoy this one. The 45 gets to burn it down. I mean, you've got to think, after last week, all the other previous weeks of heartbreaking moments of showing I've got top 5 speed, I've got top 3 speed, I'm 20 laps away from winning and then taken out. And finally he gets it done here tonight.
What a job by Fahey. Yeah, he's gone through so many emotions this season of like, he's had the speed, he's had the opportunities, but tonight it all came together, Sam.
As we will step away, when we come back, it's the post-race show. Let's talk to Mike Fahey. We'll talk to Drew Blaze, and as well, first-time top 5 finisher, the 3 of Chris Lonis. Congratulations to the 3 machine. A lot of firsts here tonight, and we will be back to talk to our first-time winner right after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the post-race show on Freaky Fast Broadcasting for the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series. Race 8 is in the books for the Ken Satellite and Portable Hauling LLC 600. We dropped it down from 400 laps to 300 laps, but it didn't stop the action from heating up at the end. We head to Victory Lane to talk to the 45 of Mike Fahey, who gets it done. After all the woes, all the struggles, we thought last week was the night they would get into Victory Lane. Wasn't the case. Instead, it was one of the longest races of the season, where he survives and gets it done. Mike, it's Sam and Zach up in the booth. I mean, this season's been a roller coaster. Tonight was a roller coaster. But how are you feeling being a winner now in the Lonestar NASCAR iRacing Series?
It feels long overdue. It's been a long 4 or 5 races I ran in here, and I was getting awfully nervous towards the end running with lap traffic. So we kept the fingers crossed.
Definitely got wild there with the lap traffic. Congrats again, Mike. Great race in there between you and Drew all the way coming down to the end. What do you think the critical thing was there for holding them off, man? Because it was definitely a battle all the way to the checker flag.
I don't even know, to be honest. I think Drew gave it to me a little bit, but we're teammates, so we're in the same Discord talking the entire race, and we kind of just ran with each other, trying to save as much tire as possible. And then we had strategies that we were going to see how it kind of played out. He was going to try to save fuel at the end, and I was going to go in for a 2-tire pit stop, and then we got a caution, so it kind of all went out the window from there. But it was a fun race, long race for sure.
It certainly was a long race. We saw a lot of the competition that were looking like favorites to try to challenge you guys knocked out of this race. What was it like just seeing everyone being taken out? Almost every restart, every time we went into pit road, we were losing a driver. What was it like seeing your competition disappear?
I was honestly just waiting for it to be me. I'm glad it wasn't. It sucks that Austin and Nicholas kind of got wrecked out in the beginning of it, because they definitely had pace. They do every week. So it would have been fun to have them up here racing for a win at the end, but it sucks for those guys.
Well, Mike, congratulations once again on this win. And before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout outs.
Yeah, obviously I got a shout out to you guys for putting this on. Like I said, it's a long race, and not too many broadcasters will broadcast a race this long, but all the Lone Star Racing teammates, everybody that puts this thing on, Justin for throwing on the league, obviously all the friends and family that are watching. I know I got a mom watching, a brother watching, so appreciate them sticking with it through a week in and week out of the trials and tribulations, but that's all. Thank you.
Well, they can't take this one away from you. That is your race winner for race number 8 of the season. It's Mike Fahey in the 45, taking the win at Charlotte. Enjoy this one, Mike, and good luck next week at Watkins Glen.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
As we move from our race winner, we go down to second place to talk to Drew Blaze, who was up there, felt like he was in control. Whatever pace he was doing, he had a line of drivers following him. We've got Drew Blaze with us. Drew, you come away second. There are a couple of opportunities to go for the lead, but they just didn't stick at the end. How are you feeling, though, coming away second here tonight?
I feel pretty good about it. I was just kind of riding there the whole race, just logging laps, and it's I felt like me and Mike were just kind of running the same pace, and I told him before the race even started that we were just gonna kind of do a little bit of tire saving, and it definitely worked out throughout the night. I feel like we had the most pace through an entire run.
Definitely, yeah. It seemed to be your strong suit again. Like most weeks, that long run there, you were very, very strong here tonight, Drew. A little bit shorter run in the race there, of course. What more did you need to get around there? We saw like anytime you could get a little bit of clean air, you really were able to make those gains. But anytime he really got to the bottom and took your air away, it was just really tough.
Yeah, I tried to go to the top, and it just didn't really work out for me. I really felt way better on the bottom. And every time I tried to go somewhere else, he would just pull away. So it was like, I'm just gonna ride here, and I tried to give him the bumper at the end. It's sometimes it works, but I'm not gonna do anything egregious. Don't want to wreck my teammate. It's just a little friendly bump. Try to get him show him the track a little bit. But yeah, no, he ran a hell of a race and was consistent the whole race, and yeah, I've been waiting for him to get a win, so I'm really happy for Mike.
Well, Drew, right before that last caution coming out, we saw you backing off, clutching up, trying to save the fuel. How close were the numbers on your end from trying to save enough to make it to the end of this race?
It kept flip flopping back and forth between like a lap and a half and 2 laps, and I was really trying to back it down even more to try to save. I don't know if I really would have been able to. I I don't know. It was really tight, and I mean, I even with that strategy, I don't know if I would have been able to, the pace that Mike had, and I had to back off every corner so much. I don't think it would have worked out for me in the end, but that's what I decided to go with at that time, and yeah.
Well, it certainly was a fun strategy to see. We were curious if it was going to work out or not, but we didn't get there. Instead, we got to see the great finish at the end. Now we are going to be heading into a road course. I'm curious on your thoughts, and how do you feel going to the one and only road course this season?
I feel great about it. I'm usually pretty good at the road courses. So we should have some good pace, and I've gotten way better at road courses. It's kind of in my wheelhouse now. It used to really not be at all. I used to dread them and skip them whenever I could. But no, we should put on a good show. And it's I know some of these guys we got in the league here are road course ringers, so they're gonna bring the competition.
We can't wait to see it. Drew, before we let you go, the floor is now yours for any other shout outs.
Yeah, I got to thank all my guys here at Lonestar Racing, Mike, Justin, Ken, Chris, just everybody. It's a great group of guys. Couldn't ask for any better group of guys around me. And got to thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast. We really appreciate you. And got to thank all of our drivers for putting on a great race here tonight. It was pretty tame. And yeah, just got to give a shout out to everybody watching and supporting you and us. And yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you for giving us such a show to call there at the end. That's going to be second place finisher in the 88 machine of Drew Blaze. Drew, enjoy this one and good luck next week at the Glen.
Appreciate it.
As we move from second place, we go down to third to bring in the 3 machine, getting their best finish of the season. First top 5, it's Chris Lannis with us. Chris, certainly you had to fight a couple of drivers there at the end to move into third place, but how are you feeling taking the 3 machine to third?
I'm feeling great after that. A lot of good racers got wrecked out, and I just stayed clean, and it worked out in the end.
It definitely worked out very well for you, Chris, man. Congrats on the top 3 finish here tonight. You saw the 2 drivers in front of you, Alan Swan and both Corbin Reich, kind of take off there with that front group and really, push hard. You seem to be kind of holding back a little bit, and it really played off well as you were able to run them guys back down to make the pass. Like, how hard was it holding back there, knowing, they were getting away, but you felt like they'd come back to you?
I just have learned. I've been on iRacing for about a year. I've just learned to take it easy and not burn my tires up and take care of my car. And it usually pays off in the end.
Well, Chris, you're part of kind of the group of drivers that felt like they were a magnet around chaos in every corner that there was in the middle of this pack. What was it like trying to survive over 300 laps to make it to the end?
It was very rough at points, but then I got away from all the chaos and just avoided everything, fortunately.
Well, Chris, congratulations once again for third. And before we let you go, the floor's now yours for any other shout outs.
Thank you. Yeah, part of Lonestar Racing. I want to give a shout out to all my teammates. They help me improve racing every week. Justin, Drew, Mike, they all help out a lot. So, yeah.
Well, congratulations once again, Chris. Enjoy this third place finish, and hopefully we see a lot more podium finishes for you and top 5 finishes. And good luck next week at the Glen.
Thank you, guys. You guys have a good night.
You too, as that will finish up our interviews here tonight, as Chris Lannis is going to be part of 2 drivers tying with the biggest movers, up 19 positions. The other one was Corbin Reich in 4th place. both moving up 19 positions from where they started. But what a wild race it was. 300 laps are now in the books, and it's Mike Fahey taking the victory. As we take a look at our unofficial results, Drew Blaze going to come away in second. Third goes to Chris Lanis. Then in fourth is Corbin Reich and Alan Swan, finishing up our 5 drivers on the lead lap. Yeah, it's going to be the debut running of the 42 of Kyler McCarthy will take 6th, with Paul Blumersheim taking 7th. James DeBose, the only driver with Patriotic Scheme, that Navy machine, was able to come away in 8th. 9th goes to Ken Couch, and finishing out our top 10, it's the pole sitter for this evening, the 707 of David Connell. And I mean, Zach, we look at the rest of the field. Survival we knew was going to be the main factor, but I don't think it was going to come down to this much survival throughout the field.
Yeah, definitely some wild moments throughout the night. Of course, we see Austin Mees, our points leader, came in here, involved in an early wreck. He was right there in the mix with the leaders at the end of this thing. He's finished his 14th after it's all said and done. Chris Klein, we saw his up and down night there in 16th. Also, Russell Windsor, I think that's the one we got to shout out. Led some laps here tonight. Had the unfortunate screen freeze, and that took him out. He's going to finish 17th. So that was tough to see for Russell, but man, what a great race overall, and a great finish there with a new winner going into victory lane here at Charlotte.
Next week, gonna be at Watkins Glen, our next race here for the Lone Star NASCAR iRacing Series. Race 9, officially we are in the second half of the season, and already a bunch of shifts up and down. We saw the points lead change after last week's race. We'll have to wait for the points to be updated on. Did they change again? Because honestly, this is a wild spree. It went from Clary was the favorite to now it is wide open between 3 different drivers. And could there be more with this running of Mike Fahey? We'll have to wait and see on how things evolve. But Zach, before we finish out tonight, any final thoughts from your end?
Well, again, yeah, congrats to Mike out there. Really awesome to see a first-time winner in a series. But I'm super excited for next week, man. I am pumped. I'm a road course guy. Really love the stock cars on road courses, and I'm excited to see who is going to bring their A game to that tricky track there in Watkins Glen, New York.
Who's the road course ace? Who is about to have one of their best runs? Who might have a terrible one? We'll have to find all those answers out next week. But for tonight, thank you, everybody that joined with us chatting. Those who are just lurking and watching. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us on your Monday evening. And if you're rewatching this, thanks for coming back and checking out how this thing ended. But for us here tonight from Freaky Fast Broadcasting, for myself, Sam Dyer, for Zach Hall, and for Robert Moyer Jr., thank you so much for hanging out with us on your Monday night. We appreciate it so much. Cannot wait to see what next week has. But tonight, it was a long one. 300 laps are in the books and only 5 drivers on the lead lap. And it was the teammates from Lone Star. 1, 2, 3 for themselves, but it's Mike Fahey finally taking the victory. Congratulations to that 45 team, but next week doesn't get any easier. We're going left, right, and how fast can you go as we're heading to the super speedway of road courses, Watkins Glen. Can't wait for it. That's next week here on Freaky Fast Broadcasting. We'll see you on our next broadcast. See y'all. Have a good one.
I was standing, staying still, never said what I feel. And every time I took the blame, carried all this quiet shame. Cause all the pressure in my chest, I've gotta fight to catch my breath. When every step still feels the same, trying not to break. Where do I go from here? Maybe I'll disappear. If I don't try, I'll never know. I'm waiting on you. Where do I go from here? There will be no more tears. Kill the doubt, feed the fire, hear the voice inside. my turn this time. They took a shot, now I want mine. You fall, I rise, I take the wheel. So this is how it feels. Where do I go from here?